Now is the time. A time you'll look back on. A time you adopt as inspiration. You will recollect this time. This moment, right now. Motivate yourself towards success. Overcome. Take over. The time is now.
Hello. Welcome, Loaded Mag members, Newcastle fans, journalists, fellow YouTubers, and non-believers tonight. You're all welcome. Remember, hit that subscribe and hit the like. Lads, how are y'all tonight?
Plotting, mate.
Good.
Same as.
Yeah.
Not too bad.
I'm really good. This is exciting times. We've just had a fantastic win against Arsenal, put them to bed for the season, and we are looking ahead to a kind of a life-changing summer for Newcastle.
A new dawn.
Yeah, very much so. So, what's
the summer window to look forward to?
Exactly, mate.
Where we know we will grow.
At least four of us met him tonight, lads. No Chris, but we have a replacement in the shape of someone people have been dying to see and get back on the show and catch up on. Shall we bring him on?
Go for it.
I sure may as well. He's in the pub beside
freelance journalist, like I said, HP Sauce Man. Here's Sean Casey. Welcome back, Sean.
Hi lads, how are we?
Even me, all right.
Welcome.
I'm all good now, yourselves?
Spot on, lad.
Not a bother.
Good to have you back, mate.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the invite. I appreciate it.
No bother.
Anytime. So what are we here to talk about again?
I don't know.
Let's get going, boys. Come on.
Will I just make up a bunch of lies and hope they come off again and hit a few like I said and off we go?
I don't know. I thought all of you was what to hear about your holiday.
I was thinking the same, yeah. We turn into more of an influencer thing. Well, I'll put up pictures of my holidays and stuff.
yeah. Top restaurants.
Yeah, sounds good.
Best pair of flip-flops I ever saw.
Well, look, the questions are coming in already. Mark, I think you mentioned just before the show started, I think that what you mentioned is a great way to start.
A great way to start. Okay, let's crack on then. So currently, we've obviously got a game going on tonight. Frankfurt Eintracht against Rangers in the European League final. So I'm watching that, so I'll keep everybody updated to scores. But what we do know, and I'm sure Sean will confirm, is we do know that Eddie Howe and Jason Tyndall are at the final tonight. And the rumour that is going around, which I'm sure Sean will get into a bit deeper, is that they are looking at Evan Ndika. So, Sean, what do you know about this lad other than he is a massive unit, 6'4", good on the ball, as you said, pre-us coming on air. Is there anything behind that? I know that Eddie Howe, I've had a couple of tweets from and a couple of DMs from our friends in the Middle East who have said that the boys are out there watching in Seville. So anything in it?
Absolutely. I think this kind of dates back to January, really. I actually have a few screenshots of DMs and stuff like that. And basically, it's the kind of when we were linked heavily with Botman at the start. I was just trying to find out who was the backup because, you know, it was a very tough deal to do in January. This was kind of when Lille started moving the goalposts. It started off at 30 million, 35, 40, you know, and it was just kind of getting dragged down the garden path. And Badashil, you might remember, was linked to us. And kind of what I got back from that was that 50 million people aren't going to take the risk on that. You know, and I don't think there was ever really concrete interest in Newcastle, not now, maybe in a year or 2 years' time. You know, but the backups that I was given at the time was Sasulu there, they might pronounce it wrong there, at Southampton. And then after that was Evan Ndika. Ndika was somebody that was always very high on the cards even in January, but they felt like that there was no need to make a move in January for him because realistically he's out of contract next year. You know, he was valued in around the 35, 40 million mark in January, and in the summer they reckon that he'd be available for around 18 million with maybe a couple of add-ons that might bring it up to around the 25 million mark. So absolutely, you know, I suppose might as well touch on Botman while we're there. The Botman situation is very strange as well. You know, kind of just general information from a couple of people there, and they're basically saying that his agent is still trying to push a move from to England. You know, and he's reaching out to clubs and stuff like that, and he's saying he's still available. Ignore the rumours about AC Milan and stuff like that. But don't get me wrong, you know, I know I've said it a few times he'd choose Newcastle over AC Milan, but if you're a young defender and if you have Paolo Maldini sitting across the table from you, you know, that's an absolutely huge selling point. Like, you know, and look, I don't know where Botman ends up, but I think for now going into the window, I think Botman, what I was told, I suppose I think I reached out to one or two of you and they said that they'll make one last final move for Botman, and if it's a no, maybe, or give us more, they walk away. They have the valuation, that's that. And the person they walk away to is Ndika then. And that looks like it's had to come to fruition now with, look, they're over there watching him, and it's only him that they're keeping an eye on in that game.
Okay.
Cool.
We've got a bit of just a quick stop in play here. Goldson for Rangers went into a tackle with one of the back four or back three from Eintracht, boot up really high, and the stud has come down as the foot has come down and has literally sliced through the forehead of one of the Eintracht players, and he's currently getting bandaged up and quite a bit of attention. No check on it, so it looks like there's no card or no other than the foul being given, but he looks like he's got a pretty nasty injury, so don't know how long.
Is it our guy? Is it our guy here? This guy? If it's not him.
No. I think is it Coda or somebody? I'm not sure.
Roda. Is it Roda? Rodi? Whatever. R-O-D, is it? Rod?
Tell you now.
You'd never make a commentator, Martin.
I wouldn't know. Total shite.
Someone said it's
Sebastian Roda.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah, number 17. Yeah.
Sorry,
it's a time delay. I am in Seville, so. You know,
how about other centre backs, the likes of Lloyd Kelly, who worked with Eddie Howe before?
Look, Kelly was a big target in January, and kind of going into the summer, if Bournemouth didn't get promoted, he definitely would have been one to watch. But with Bournemouth getting promoted and stuff like that, I don't think the transfer fee is going to be realistic for the talent that he has now. Jimmy, is definitely something they watch in the future, but you have to remember as well, maybe in a year or 2 years' time when he plays on the Bournemouth, if he does turn out to be the defender that Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall think he's going to be, we can buy him. You know, it's like we don't have to jump the gun and pay that 30 million from now and take a risk on him, Jimmy, because that's what they're going to value him at. Like, you know, they're going to they want the 25 million, 30 million from him in January. Now they're a Premier League club, so they're definitely going to put more on that. You know, everything that I've got on Tarkowski is that it's done. You know, that Tarkowski is a Newcastle player. Can I hang the hat on that information? Not 100% yet, because it's really very close to the club. But he's told the likes of West Ham and Leicester and stuff like that it's hard to set in Newcastle. So look, I think it's a fantastic signing. 29 years of age. People judge him on the Burnley side, but you have to remember people were judging Shah on Newcastle at the start of the season, well, saying he was shocking, and look at him under a good manager. You know, so there's a bit of perspective there as well. Like, so Tarkowski on a free transfer, it's an absolute no-brainer. Probably sees the end of Lascelles, but that's what it is.
I was going to say with Tarkowski, because it was actually in the last week there was reports coming out saying that, you know, West Ham have pulled out of the race. So from what you're saying, that makes perfect sense. That if West Ham have pulled out of the race, it's clear that Tarkowski's chosen a destination. We don't know that for sure that it's Newcastle, but it's likely to be the case.
But his agent was on Tyneside about 2 weeks ago. He spent a couple of days up there, you know, so look, everything lines up that has happened. You know, again, as I've said before, when things get really close to the club like this on a final sign-off and stuff like that, I have absolutely no information on that, and I'm not even going to pretend. Jimmy, like, what I've got told is from the outside sources and stuff like that is that the deal is done. They believe that Tarkowski is a Newcastle player.
Definitely. I just want to ask you just a really quick question. Obviously, you've known about Ndika for a while. You mentioned about January, and obviously we've all known about Botman because we were very, very close to getting him in January. Who would you go for at this point in time now? If you could sign one of those two players, we know the situation of AC Milan with Botman, but if you could go out and sign one of those two players, who would you go for right now in terms of how they're performing? We know Ndika's about to play, is playing right now in the Europa League final. Botman didn't have the best end to the season, rocked with injury. who's the guy you put your money on in the summer for Newcastle?
Not just saying it because I think we're going to sign him, but definitely Ndika. You know, I worry about Botman, the pace of Premier League, and that's been like if you watch him play for Lille and stuff like that, like he doesn't turn great. Like, you know, everything's a slide tackle with him. You know, like if you watch it, he's not exactly he's not a very quick defender. He's not one of these defenders that you think he reads the game fantastically well. He's good in the air. A few games I've seen of him this season, and I watched him a bit before that, you know, is that he's a bit slow in his reading of the game. Is a bit slow. You know, the tie over on that, as well as that is it Lehman or Leyland, the fella that joined Newcastle. He's basically an analyst. You know, he would have seen a lot of him with Liverpool and stuff like that. I know he wasn't directly involved in transfers, but if you're going to include a player in your setup, you know, you're going to run it by this fella. And at the end of the day, they had an option between Botman and Konate, and it looks like they chose Konate because of his pace and power. And that's what Botman lacks. And in the Premier League, you look at it, these centre-backs with pace and power stand out. You know, and especially in a club like Newcastle, you know, where we're getting to that level, it's grand at the likes of Man City and stuff like that, where you have Diaz and stuff. You know, they're not really exposed as much, so they can be really good footballers. It's almost like having a centre back that's a centre midfielder as such. Like, you know, so when you're at Newcastle and you're climbing the table and stuff like that, you really need competent centre backs that are big, strong, and powerful. You know, and I think Ndika, absolutely my first choice. I've been honest with you, I'd probably take him over anybody we've been linked to either.
I can't believe you talk about Mark Botman in that way. I cannot believe.
Do you not agree?
About him in that way.
Do you not agree?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that I agree 100%. I love Sven Botman. I know he's not had a great season, but the season he had previously, when he effectively was a big part of them winning the league.
Oh, he's phenomenal.
He's a top, and the one thing I measure Botman against, because there's elements of that I agree with. I do think he's slower on a turn of pace. I don't think he's the slowest, but I do think that as well. Everything is last ditch was in my mind. I think you're right. It is last ditch in terms of his sliding, but his timing is spot on. The one thing I'll say is that I match him up as a left-sided centre back to Dan Burn, and I think he's got more than Dan Burn. In my opinion.
I suppose the kind of my view on Botman, if you were to play a back three, and if you asked me for a left-footed centre back to play in the middle of the back three, I'd choose Botman. If you asked me to play on the left-hand side of a back three, or even the left-hand side of a back two, I'd pick Ndika. Jimmy, I think if you're playing a back three in the Premier League and you see it happen down Bourne a couple of times when they drag you down the wing like that, you know, I'd worry about Botman then. Jimmy, against the pacey wingers, the likes of your Gerard Bones and stuff like that, like, you know, that's where I'd worry about him. If he's a sweeper, or if he's in the middle of a back three, I think absolutely fantastic. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him at a United or a Chelsea or a Spurs or something like that, and that's been deadly honest with you.
I think that's fair. Yeah. Interesting. Like, cracking start, boys. Cracking start.
Left back next, is it?
Let's go left back. Yeah,
I'm going to walk through the defence and keep the strikers for last, is it?
Yeah. So let's start with Matt Target, and the sealed with a kiss from Amanda. What are you having here?
They have no decision made yet. Absolutely no decision. You know, from what I got, is that the choice that has to be made is: do you go for Matt Target and bring in Aaron Hickey? You know, you're talking 25-30 million on a financial outlay there. You know, because I think Aaron Hickey's around 80 million. Matt Target is about, say, 15 roughly. So you're talking over the 30 million mark. Or else, do you go for Lodi, who's at Atletico Madrid, and you're talking 35 million plus just on him? You know, that's the decision that they have to make at the moment. You know, so it's a bit of a catch-all. Aaron Hickey can play right back and left back. You know, now you have Emil Kraft, who's after turning into fucking prime Cafu out of nowhere. You know, like how his game has evolved is frightening. Like it's crazy. You know, I was talking to somebody there recently, like, and I really value their opinion on football, and they said the change in his game is that before Eddie Howe, he'd wait for the winger or the striker to get the ball. Now he's actually hitting he's hitting them before they actually get near the ball, and it's changed him. Like, he looks absolutely fantastic. So has that changed their thinking on having to bring in someone like Aaron Hickey? I honestly don't know, but Hickey is very, very high on the agenda. I don't know that I send it onto one of you in the start of January, I think it was, that Aaron Hickey was definitely a player we were watching, and I think it was only about last month he actually got linked by, was it Fabrizio Romano? You know, so he's been somebody that they've been watching for a long time and they're very keen on him. I know there's a lot of talk about him going to Arsenal and stuff like that.
Arsenal, yeah.
There is absolutely nothing agreed with him to go to Arsenal. I think a lot of what Arsenal are going to do will depend on Champions League as well, which I think we put a fair old kick into that.
Sean, just to add to that, I read an article about half an hour ago that someone put out that says actually Brentford are more likely to get Hickey, that they're closer to an agreement than Arsenal are, which kind of completely cut out the Hickey conversation to Arsenal, and that you're right in what you're saying. There's nothing been agreed. Have you heard anything about Brentford?
Brentford definitely in the mix room, you know, but I think if Newcastle form up their interest, I think he'll become a Newcastle player. And that's been deadly honest with you. That's from everything what I've got anyway.
Gabby Bonahor reckons he's going to Brentford. He'd choose Brentford over Newcastle.
Well, he's definitely not going to Brentford then. The other one as well is I spoke about him in January, was Owen Wijnald. There's I think it's about 10-15 million release clause in his contract. Newcastle are very interested, but I think the feeling is that it's hard to sell on going to Ajax. So unless that changes, if that changes, we're in the mix. But I think for now, and I think what they got in January when they touched base on him was that the player wants to sign for Ajax. So for me, I think and Backer as well is one to watch. You know, I know I'm spitting out a lot of names, but at the end of the day, they were willing to spend 20 million on him in January. You know, his representatives were on Tyneside. Everything was agreed, and Bayer Leverkusen couldn't get a replacement last minute, so the deal was pulled on him. You know, again, this fella is an absolute tank. He's like Ole Gluzny, you remember him back in the day there? He's just 6'2", absolute powerhouse up and down the line. Like, you know, his size is deceiving with how quick he actually is. And again, he can play kind of left side of a centre back. You know, so he's definitely an option as well. But I think they have a big decision made on the kind of combination of what they're going to do. You know, is it going to be Target and Aaron Hickey, or do they go for Lodi or Backer? You know, if it's Lodi or Backer, it'll be Justin.
Interesting. Should we, because we kind of bypassed the keeper situation, should we step back and talk keepers?
Yeah, so for goalkeepers, I think it's absolutely it's not hidden on anybody that Henderson is a top target. You know, so the keepers that were mentioned to me were Henderson, obviously, is the top target, but they'll only go near that deal if they can get him on a loan for a season, and then they would probably commit to a big fee. You know, will they commit to 40 million? It'd have to be massively performance related, but you know, Henderson reads the game very well, and he's very much a proactive keeper now, as in like he stands on the edge of his box, it allows the defence to push up a bit, but he has a mistake in him. You know, when he was playing for Sheffield United in the Premier League and when he was playing for Man United, he had mistakes in him. You know, he had an absolute shocker at St James's Park, if you can remember. I think we beat him 2 or 3-1, and he was suspect for all the goals. You know, so he's highly rated, but he's highly rated in the sense of they want to have a look at him first. You know, do United want to loan a keeper to Newcastle who could be in direct competition next season? That's another big question. You know, a lot of people, I did hear from somebody that he had a deal agreed with a different club and he has his eyes set in a different club, maybe even a move abroad. But look, for now, if I was to rate it, I'd say probably Henderson is the top target at the moment. They're looking at Bigelow as well, who's at, I think it's a Feyenoord. You have Gavin Banzunu, the Irish goalkeeper, who's absolutely phenomenal.
He is quality.
Yeah, you know, the thing for him is like I think his pass. I've seen some stats on his passing there in the I think it was League One or something like that, and it's absolutely phenomenal. You know, like his distribution is incredible. So I think they might look to do. I think it's either him, Leno, Henderson, or Bigelow. I think they're the top targets at the moment for a goalkeeper. But they definitely feel like they need a shake up in the goalkeeper position. Dubravka's a fantastic shot stopper. You know, great for coming to crosses, but his distribution is very poor. You know, the defense has to maybe sit 10 yards back because of Dubravka, because Dubravka won't go too far off his line. He won't take those risks, you know, and that's what Eddie Howe wants to play. He wants to compress the pitch. He wants to push the keeper a bit higher up the pitch. So that's what they're looking at.
Sean, did I see you saying something about Kasper Schmeichel, who's 35 years old as well? Well,
I don't see it happening, being honest with you. There's a lot of reasons why I don't see it happening. He has a £4 million release clause that was made aware to the club, and that was it. You know, again, you know, he's very much the mold of what they're looking at. But if you've watched him recently, like he has a mistake in him definitely, and he's the wrong age as well. If anything, you wanted a young keeper coming in under Dubravka.
Yeah. The Leicester fans that I've been in Leicester myself, speaking to a lot of Leicester fans, they wouldn't be sad to see him go.
Oh, they're driving to Newcastle.
They want it. They want him out. To be fair, they've wanted Schmeichel out for a couple of years. I know we had a fantastic game in the FA Cup final, effectively won them the cup. Other than that, they want him gone because of the reasons that you just said, Sean, is that he makes too many mistakes. And the one thing, just reverting back to Dean Henderson, like I think he's a very good goalkeeper. I think he's an upgrade on Dubravka. But I want to ask you, all of you, the question. Do you think, he's that goalkeeper good enough with the ball at his feet to take us forward into that next era? I know you've touched on it already, Sean. Is he that guy?
We haven't
always like a goalkeeper out there that's better.
For me, we haven't seen it yet. Sheffield United, they weren't exactly a team that would play out from the back. In the Championship, and when they got promoted, you could see that when he was at United a bit alright. Like, he was that little bit higher up and stuff like that. Like, and like his game was totally different to what the Hayes is. So we've seen it in glimpses that's what he kind of models his game on. But we haven't seen enough of it to kind of put 40 million on him. Crazy figures, like.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, and we have a lot of it. That's probably pocket change. PAF have probably made that since we just had the conversation about Henderson, for God's sake.
But you mentioned briefly about the potential of a loan.
Yeah.
Is that viable? Is that something?
Absolutely, yeah. That's what
potentially happen?
That's the deal that Newcastle want to do. But look, with Lingard, Man United absolutely dragged them over the coals. Kind of the last couple of windows, or the last couple of days of the January transfer window, made me look like a bit of a mug as well, but that's nothing new. They did, so do they go back to the table United in that sense? I think it'll be another case of, this is what we're willing to do. Do you want to do it or not? Yes or no?
So that's a good one there for Michael Palmer. Any joy for Freddie Woodman?
I can't see it. It was a horrible loan from, really, wasn't it? Going to Bournemouth. Travers then ends up getting player of the year. So it's it was a shocking loan from, really. We've had so many of them. I think Elliot Anderson, Matty Longstaff, they've been the only decent loans we've had in a long, long time. Like, that's something that needs a massive change there.
Nick Pope from Burnley, if they go down.
He's only 29.
I personally
He's older.
No, I think he's 29.
Yeah, I think he's not. I don't think he's over 30 anyway.
He's not a name that I've heard.
30, he's 30, and he'll be. Yeah, he's 30. It's April. He's 30. So yeah, he's
great age.
Keepers, great age.
Same age as yourself, man.
I fucking wish. Yeah, no, maybe about 20 years ago, mate.
Yeah, but it's not a name I've heard.
Okay.
I don't think he's good enough with his feet, personally, for the way that Eddie Howe want to play. That's why I don't think he's good. Don't get as wrong as it's a bit like Dubravka, good shot, stop, good in the air, just not good with his feet and distribution.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay.
We move on from keepers. We move to defensive.
We did defenders.
Central midfielders.
Yep, I'll do it.
Yeah. Okay. How about Bissouma?
Definitely an option. I see a lot of talk about it, but I don't think a holding midfielder is very high on their agenda, and I think we'll touch on Paqueta there soon. But again, if it's a deal that suits them, they'll do it. Very much like if Leeds get relegated and if Calvin Phillips becomes available for 25 million, they'll snap their hands off it. Bissouma, they reckon it probably happened late in the window. He's a year left in his contract. You have the names that have been mentioned to me are Bissouma, Douglas Luiz, which is somebody I've mentioned again in January. You have Haidara, that's at RB, and you have Calvin Phillips. They've been the names mentioned to me, but I don't think they're too keen on going heavy on a holding midfielder, because I know they've scouted Kefren Thuram a lot. So if they don't have to invest in someone like that, and if they want to push out a year or two and see how he develops at Nice, I think they might hold out and go for someone like him. But look, if Leeds get relegated, I think Calvin Phillips is very keen on a move to Newcastle. The options that he has, I think he's the one he'd probably choose Newcastle. And I think it's only a deal that we would do if he got relegated. That's when he comes into the equation if they get relegated.
I think the thing about Calvin Phillips, and it was something that Pete mentioned the other day as well, he's not really an out-and-out defensive midfielder anyway. He's played there a little bit, obviously, for Leeds, but when he's played for England, a bit more further forward. So he could probably fit into that mould that Eddie Howe wants, where he can function in a three, but not necessarily just be a holding midfielder as such.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. You know, it's kind of what they're really looking for is versatility in a player as well. You know, you see, we've probably used Bruno in 3 different positions in midfield already. You know, a 6 and 8 and a 10. You know, and we've seen him perform and that. And the same with Wellington. Like, you know, he's moved across a couple of positions as well. So I think if they're going to be looking for a centre midfielder, he's going to have to be able to play in multiple positions. You know, he's going to have to be very comfortable on the ball. You know, Basuma, Douglas Luiz, Haidara, and Calvin Phillips are the ones that were mentioned to me.
What about so they're the ones that have been mentioned to you. I don't know if you've watched, and I don't know if any of the other lads have watched Ibrahim Sangara at PSV. Had a good season at PSV, played well in the Europa Conference. His stats are very good. He's one of them that is, I think, if I'm right in thinking, has got a release clause.
34 million,
yeah. 34 million. Yeah, that's it. He looks a terrific player. Obviously, it's not one that you've heard or one that we've been linked with. But what do you think about potentially him?
Do you know what? They've watched him for a long time pre his move to PSV. You know, like he was definitely one that was on the agenda. But for 34 million, you know, like from what I heard and just talking to people in general, like, you know, it's not fucking privy information, is that he wouldn't suit a Premier League midfield that want to pass the ball about. You know, he's not good enough on the ball. You know, he's very much he'll break up play and he's a bit of a destructor, you know, much like Seko Fofana would be an upgrade on him, you know, but Joelinton has fell into that role, so there's no need for it. You know, do you need a box-to-box midfielder when you have someone like Joelinton he was kind of thrown into it? Now he has a summer to kind of work on his game properly and develop even more, you know, so I can see Sangara, and that's been deadly honest with you. I don't think if they are going to add 34 million to a midfield, I don't think they're going to spend. If they're going to add 34 million, they're not going to spend it on a whole midfielder. That's been honest with you. They have somebody else that they want to put all the money into.
You mentioned as well, you know, the club might not see it viable to sign. Sorry, a defensive midfielder that's a bit of a ball breaker, like he breaks the ball, breaks up the play. I want to everyone here, like, do you think that's what we need, Martin? I know you talked about it before on previous shows that when we talked about maybe investing money, I was me and I think Daz at the time were thinking about strikers. We were thinking about like go for the juggler in terms of spending all that money. But you interested? I would have invest my money in a CDM. Like, do you think that's where we maybe need to invest our money?
I think the defense has shored up from where we were, and I'm not going to get into the whole Lascelles debate because everybody knows I don't like him, so I won't get the venom that I normally get. And to be fair, I will say when he came on Monday night, he was outstanding and he rammed and battered through anybody that came near him. But I think sometimes it depends on who's in that midfield, Pete, for me. Because sometimes we can get run through quite easily. But we seem to have shored up, and obviously I'm sure that's down to the work that Eddie Howe and the staff are doing with them on the pitch. But I've always said in the spine of a team, and I go back to the entertainers, you had that spine. Chelsea, when they won the league the first time, had a spine. Man United had a spine. And I think that kind of spine is made up of a top-class goalkeeper, a cracking centre-half, a good kind of tough ball-battling CDM who doesn't have to ping 30-yard passes, just somebody that can break up the ball and play 5, 6, 7-yard passes to get you going to the midfield.
Tiote.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I look back and I think of a player who I would want in my team now, I want somebody like a David Batty.
Yeah, I was going to say you talk about David Batty.
I talk about David Batty or a Gary Speed all the time. Now, Gary Speed was probably slightly different in that he could win that ball, he'd get up the pitch. David Batty wouldn't score you that many, but when he did do a worldies. But he was somebody that just sat in that midfield, but he could drop between defense and midfield and sit in that little hole in between the two lines and give you that extra bit of cover when we didn't have the ball and the opposition were on the press. We could steady that. He could break up the ball like a terrier in amongst it, ping a little ball 3, 4, 5 yards into midfield, into a Ginola, into Speed, into other players, and you're away up the pitch. So I still, whether it's a buy or whether it's a loan, I still think not every game, because I don't think Eddie Howe necessarily wants to play fully with the CDM. Maybe he thought when he was bringing in Bruno was going to be more defensive, but I think he's shown in the last 10 games and the goals and assists he's got, I don't think Eddie's going to play him further back. I'd be quite shocked, but I'd still like to see somebody in there that can maybe be just outside of a Bruno that could be that ball winner. So listen, striker, I think a striker is a priority. You look at the shift Wilson put in on Monday night, was outstanding. Probably best display in a number 9 shirt I've seen probably since Shearer. I thought he was outstanding on Monday night. But I'd like to see just that. What's the word for it? I'd like to see that little player that can get in the middle. That every other opposition player and fan fucking hates.
But see,
but we love him.
I think football has evolved past the defensive midfielder.
Yeah,
you know, somebody that can just
so.
go in and defend. You know, you look at Bruno Guimaraes. He doesn't have to tackle. He reads the game. You know, you see that little touch inside the box there with Odegaard. You know, he just touched around him and he was gone. You know, so I think what they want is a clever midfield. Like, you know, that, you know, at the end of the day, the last thing you have to do is make a slide tackle kind of thing. Like, you know, it's all about reading the game. So if you look at the way Howe wants to play with that 3 in midfield, he wants an intelligent 3 that they defend and attack as a collective. You know, I think that's very much what he was. So instead of having one person designed to the role, it'd be very much it depends on the game and stuff like that, and how the shape will change. I think it'd be very much Bruno Guimaraes, Joelinton and Paqueta, you know, that mix of a 3 in the middle that will work it out between them.
Sean, just before obviously we go a bit further with obviously other target stuff, you just mentioned there the way that Eddie Howe wants to play. Have you heard anything directly or indirectly about how he wants to play? Because obviously we know we've set this the way things are at the moment. Has he done that because of the playing staff he's got at the moment? Will that change when it's obviously he gets the players that he wants?
See, how Howe wants to set up, right? And kind of this is something that I got from the very start, and I think I have enough now that I can say I know, because I actually predicted every single change that was made from the team since January. If you had noticed, I'd done, and just to show people, as in, yes, I do get told. How he wants to set up is that in attacking, he wants to be able to bring, say, if you're playing a flat back 4, you know, he wants to be able to bring in the left back to play alongside the other 2 and push Trippier up to the right midfield, and be able to do that with Trippier, bring Trippier in and push somebody up to the left midfield. You know, that's very much of, in attacking, he wants to be able to go to a 3 at the back, you know, a 3-4-3, and in normal possession it'd be a 4-3-3. Jimmy, that's what he wants. That's what he sees. He sees a 4-3-3. I know he was a very strict 4-4-2 manager, but I think what we've seen now, and kind of we can kind of see the blueprint of, he wants to see a 4-3-3. You know, very much a 4-3-3 in attack, as I said, and then be able to add a full back to the midfield when he can.
Cool.
Okay. Sure, look, while we're on midfield, we may as well get to the man that pretty much every question that's coming in is about. So, all right, lads, question for Sean. What do we think about Paqueta? Posted on Instagram with Bruno, and then a picture. Obviously, I think it was Adam P. Sitting on the house next door taking pictures. Play to you, Adam. Good to see you, pal.
That Adam kid, he's fantastic, isn't he?
Oh, he's great. Yeah,
he doesn't care. Like, he takes it on the chin and he just gets on with it. I really admire the kid. Like, he just does himself, and that's that.
Yeah, exactly. Although I do have to question his morality around buying a 60 quid headband just to meet ASM. But anyway, if he's got the cash, then listen, kid, go splash out. So we got one about obviously Bruno Paqueta wearing the Newcastle away kit in his back garden. Paul Malloy says, interested to hear the thoughts on Paqueta. Who else? Quite a few. Everybody wants to know about Paqueta. The other ones are all about Lodi. So Brewy Y, Andrew Malloy, a few others. All want to know about Paqueta. So where are we at with him? So is it going to happen?
I think it is. So I think everything is agreed with the player. They met with his agent over the last couple of weeks. Everything is in place there. The initial point of contact with Leon was actually over Paqueta. He turned us down in early December. You know, he was the original one and he had absolutely no interest. And then Bruno went, and look, you can see, you know, the likes of war flags and stuff like that. Like, we've sold the club to any player that wants to come here. You know, and with Paqueta, from his side of things, everything is done. You know, now it's just the club's agreeing a fee. Newcastle value him at 54 million. and it's just trying to work out that fee with Leon. You know, there's plenty of players that travel in and out of Newcastle and to other clubs, you know, and they don't put up any pictures purposely. Paqueta's going around the place putting up pictures on the jet, putting pictures of bridges, you know, getting pictures out in the backyard and all this kind of stuff. You know,
tick.
Yeah, you know,
that's what I said to you and Pete last night after the show.
You know, so when it comes to Leon and their chairman and stuff like that, I take nothing for granted until it's actually signed off. But they had a great relationship over the Bruno deal. It's very much of how do they work out the structure of this one. You know, Paqueta wants to move. Everything is agreed with him when it comes to wages, everything. You know, like they've sold him the project. Now it's agreeing the deal with Leon, which is probably going to be the sticking point. They value him at 54 million. I think there was something that kind of popped up that. I suppose it was there was question marks raised about it. You might have seen it a couple of months ago, where he had a bit of a run-in with the Leon manager, and it's because his form dipped for a bit. He started playing him as a false 9, and Paqueta went publicly out and said that he's not a false 9. He doesn't want to play as a false 9, but that's where Eddie Howe sees him. You know, he sees him as part of a 3-man midfield, or else when you go away to a Man City or an Arsenal or Liverpool, you know, he becomes your false 9. You know, so I think there's definitely a bit of a conversation around that as well. Like, you know, I don't think they expected his interest, and you might have seen me tweet saying that Paqueta has given them a headache that they didn't think they were going to have. You know, because they were looking fairly hard at Easy there from Crystal Palace. You know, he was very high on the agenda. I think probably with Jamie Rubin as well, fucking work closely with him in the past, like, you know, but definitely, you know, Paqueta is a top target. No, they didn't expect him to be available in this summer, but look, if they can agree a fee with Leon, it's done. Agreeing a fee with Leon is the hard part, but it's 54 million is what we value him at, and I think that's more than enough for him.
Sean, is it? There was a rumor going on the last couple of days that there was possibly a clause in Paqueta's contract in the minute that if they didn't qualify for Europe, there was a release fee that kicked in. Is that right?
Not that I know of. Not that I know of. I know that the club have evaluation of him, you know, and their chairman isn't a mug. He's not going to put in a clause unless it's nice and high, like, you know. And to be fair, they kind of rescued him from AC Milan as well, you know, because he went to AC Milan with a stock high and he flopped. You know, so if he's putting something in place, that really protects his club. Like, he doesn't get caught out. Like,
cool. Pete, you wanted to lead in with this coming to this pick?
Well, yeah, it's come out not long ago. It's been obviously tweeted out, and Paqueta and his wife have not been shy of showing their activities, their movements, and obviously, you know, the famous bridge in the background. You know, Newcastle fans have been very, very happy about this. You know, is this? And I mentioned it to the lads and the Geordies down south lads. Spoke to them just before we came on, and we're kind of like saying, you know, is this a case of, you know, Paqueta kind of getting a feel for England, for Newcastle, seeing the site, seeing the area? Is this kind of Paqueta, so kind of, you know, just maybe rubber stamping whether this is the place he wants to see as home? It clearly looks like it for me.
I think the club is sold on him already. I think it's past that stage. Being honest with you, you know, I think it's for me, and this is me putting my own reading on the situation. All these pictures and stuff like that it's a see you soon. You know, and that's what it is. It's kind of like, look, I'm here now. I'm making it well known. So, look, I think I'd be very surprised if it's not done. You know, all this talk about budget and stuff like that, like, you know, Paqueta blows it out of the water.
Back of the jersey, Pete. What do you think?
Yeah, exactly.
Pete's
Back on it. But has anybody checked out? Because apparently there was a few tweets going out today after some of those photos came out that Pete's gone. That's it. He's had enough.
Yeah.
That Paqueta has actually taken Leon off of his biography on his Instagram.
I'd seen that. I think it was he's on his Instagram, I think, or Twitter. He'd taken them off it. Someone had thought it was a Wikipedia originally, but obviously anyone can change Wikipedia.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I'd seen
I believe it was one of his.
But is there any truth in that, Rich? Did anybody check it out? Do we know?
I don't know. I'll check it out for you now.
Off his Instagram,
I'll have a check now. I was sitting, lads.
Yeah,
I'll have a check now. I was sitting.
Okay.
Two Pete's.
Oh yeah, hang on now. Can't be having that.
Oh, it's still frozen.
His Twitter still has it on.
Okay.
But again,
Back
look,
on
I
his-
think
his life.
these
I
things.
think that would be a bad move if you did that straight away. Would you not?
But the players don't manage these accounts themselves anyway.
Yeah, not
like,
exactly.
geez, they're so detached from their social media. It's not even funny. Obviously you have Bruno out and about now doing it, but like these are managed by media companies and stuff like that. Like, so don't get me wrong. Like they like to drop hints and stuff like that. Like, so if it is something like that, it's more of a kind of a bit of a teaser than anything. But when it comes to Paqueta, and this is going back to our January transfer show, the wrap up show at the end of the summer. There was 3 players I named, or the end of the January transfer window. There was 3 players I named, and I think they've kind of. Nunes wasn't my information at the start. I think it was Mark Douglas was absolutely streets ahead of everybody else on the Nunes stuff. But it was what I was told is that Nunes, Paqueta, and Rafinha, if anybody had moved for them in January, we would have matched it and more. And you would have seen there last week that Fabrizio Romano came out and he said that Newcastle are very fond of Paqueta. So that kind of forms that up. Did we get him? Do you know what? I think he's not almost nailed on to go to Barcelona, but I think Barcelona are getting distracted with trying to raise funds for Lewandowski, so you never know.
That's right.
Just going back to Paqueta, he's on his Instagram. It just literally says sports person.
Okay, interesting. All right, look, we'll see where that goes, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
You good, Pete? Oh, Pete's frozen again.
He's frozen again.
Okay.
Shitty broadband in Leicester. That's all I can say.
Right, we'll move
There's
on.
a middle. Actually, I've got one here just before we kind of jump on, just from Lisa,
Yeah.
just to bring a bit of a mix to it. So she wants to know, Sean, how much do you love winding people up on Twitter?
Meow, meow.
Do you know what? I take a lot of abuse, so look, I'm not an abusive person in that sense. So I won't get into a slagging match or anything like that. So look, I like winding people up and I like dropping comments, and the like I said really gets under people's skin, so I enjoy that. So I do.
I did see a couple of bits the other day where somebody did try to get into a whole England, Ireland, and IRA topic, which I thought, to be fair to you, you ducked particularly well, considering it could have gone one way or the other. But some of that stuff that you get is stupid. But we know you, and listen, there's lads that I follow on Twitter that follow me that say, some of the stuff you give is rubbish. There's other people that enjoy listening. And I think we need to reiterate to people, and I'm sure, Sean will back this up, not everything that he gets. And I think when we've had the likes of Pete Graves and we've had the likes of Keith Downey on, they say the same thing as Sean has said. Mitch, Geordie Dentist will tell you the same thing. Stu Penman will tell you the same thing. Everybody gets bits of information. I get little bits. Sean gets stuff. Richie gets an odd few bits and pieces. Something can be, and Sean has said this multiple times, in particular around the transfer window, Newcastle have been very, very fluid, as we've seen in the January window, as to who they were going to go for in a deal. And if the deal wasn't right, if the deal wasn't right for the club, they would walk away, and they did that. Sean hasn't paid the bills because he's too busy. But things change. So information that Sean might get, or we might get, sometimes changes, and a player changes, and a direction changes. But again, the information that's there goes out. Some people, when we did the last show, were hell-bent on coming on and giving a bit of grief. But if you look at tonight, we've got over 400 people watching and listening to the stuff that we talk about. So there's a huge interest there from a majority of Newcastle fans who like to hear if there's hope or no hope, where it might go, what it might do. And I think, look, fair play to Sean and other lads that do get bits and pieces and come on and go, look, I'll stick my head above that parapet and I'll give you what I do know, what I can't, I won't, and where it comes from. Look, I'm not obviously going to give up sources, and you would expect that from Sean quite rightly. But, he does tell you how things work and where bits can come from when he does. So I think that needs to always be kept in mind of what we get.
The thing that I said from the start, and as I said to everybody is, and you've had plenty of people on the show and like journalists and stuff like that and presenters and stuff, and they say, we knew about it 3 weeks before it happened, but we sat on the information until it came out.
Yeah.
I tried to give the information that they're sitting on. Do you get me? Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. They fact check it. They have a lot more sources than I do. I get the raw information and I put it out there. Is it right sometimes? Is it wrong sometimes? Absolutely. I don't know all the ins and outs and stuff like that. Like, I don't have deep contacts in the club. Absolutely not. Whatever I hear, I put out there. It's very much of, this is the gossip. This is what it is. This is what I've heard. Here, you can have it. I'm not going out there saying, and I know that, like I said, gets people wound up, but that's because people fucking abuse me and stuff like that. So that's my own little bit of a dig. But Jimmy, for me, it's just the information I get, I put it out. It's just to kind of close that line between what people are sitting on, and then afterwards they can say, oh yeah, we knew about this. It's easy to say that. Like, see, I think journalism and stuff like that, it's kind of, they've taken a massive step back on what they do put out because of the abuse that they get online. At the end of the day, if I get abuse, it's my Twitter personal account. Like, I don't really give a shit. Like, whereas when they're getting abuse, it's their workplace.
Yeah.
People are tagging the newspaper and stuff like that. So, like, I spoke to, like, there's journalists that give me information saying that I'm not going to release this because if it doesn't happen, I'm going to get abuse over, and I don't want people abusing my newspaper and stuff like that. So you can throw that out there if you want. And I'd say, yeah, no bother, and off you go. Jimmy, and that's it. Like, I'm not claiming to be fucking Eddie Howe's buddy there and going for cocktails with Amanda Stavely there after after the podcast. It's
But
absolutely
obviously you
not.
would if you were invited.
Probably not. I don't drink much.
I'll go.
But very much so. Like, as I said, I don't claim to know everything.
I think that's a good lead in there, Sean, to Life Goals there. He says, when you see people making up information that you may or may not know is right or wrong about potential signings, do you react to that? Like, I know personally you don't. Sometimes I've seen you correct little bits and pieces. You might send me something to go, that's a load of horse shit. Don't mind it.
Yeah.
But like, do you just ignore it? Do you put it straight? Like, what's your take on that? Just for Life Goals question.
Look, everybody does their own thing and they get sources of information from different people. I do usually DM the person and say, look, I've heard this is incorrect, and sometimes they come back to me and say, who the fuck do you think you are correcting me? But that's basically it. Like, but look, I'll just try to steer them straight. If my information is different, I'd say, look, this is what I've heard. That's right or that's wrong. And that's all I do. At the end of the day, look, I think I showed you a screenshot there before we actually came on show of a fairly high-placed journalist that not many people would have DMs from and stuff like that, like Jimmy. So they're the levels of the people that I do talk to and stuff like that now.
Yeah.
And the reason these people do reach out to me is because I don't share my DMs, or I don't show people who I'm talking to and stuff like that. Like, at the end of the day, in the morning, if I wanted to, I just come off Twitter and not go back on it, and it wouldn't bother me in the slightest. My interactions on Twitter aren't very enjoyable, and that's been deadly honest with you. Most, like, 9 times out of 10, I put out a post and 90% of it is negative, and it's hard to actually pick through the positive ones to actually interact with. So I don't really interact with my post a whole lot, so I put out a tweet and I just kind of leave it there, and I come back an hour later, or 2 hours later, 3 hours later, and it's like 20 plus, and I just say, read all kind of thing, So look, I put it out there, and if people want to buy into it, they buy into it. If they don't, just block me or mute me or move on. It's as simple as that. Like,
show Sean some love. That's the moral out of that one. Let's move on slightly, and hopefully Pete gets to join us again. Just also want to remind people to hit that subscribe button as well, bottom right hand corner of your screen, red button. Yeah, pushes up the subs.
Over 400 watching tonight, so thanks very much. 48 minutes in, and loads of good questions. Do you want to do a couple of questions, Daz? I've got a couple that kind of around different positions in the team, just be kind of move on to mids and stuff. So
go on.
I've got a couple starred, and just for anybody watching the game, it's still 0-0. 6 minutes of injury time in the first half.
I have a question for you first, Martin. Why are you wearing a blue top tonight?
Why am I wearing a blue top? Why am I wearing? I didn't actually think about it, but I will do some subliminal advertising. I'm actually wearing my work polo shirt because I was late in, and I didn't get time to get changed. So that's why I'm wearing a blue polo shirt. It's my work gear. Okay, we talked about Paqueta. Okay, here's a quick one then. Get everybody's thoughts on this. Even all one from Leon. He says thoughts on Shaw. He's had numerous concussions. Obviously, another one there on Monday night. Bit of a knock. Not many people talking about it. He seems to have quite a few. Does anybody think that's a bit worrying, or is he just unlucky in the fact that he seems to be the one that gets clattered when he does? Daz, start with you.
Okay, no, he did get a whack the last night. A lot of the time, he does kind of play up to it a bit as well. That might be a bit unfair, but he does. I don't think he's the best actor, but he did get a whack the last day, and he needs to come off. But sometimes he just does play it up a bit, and it is for trying to get a bit of time. That's for me.
Okay, Sean, what do you think on Shaw?
Like, with sports injuries and stuff like that, like, once you take one concussion, you're a lot more susceptible to taking them again. So like what might think as a hard knock the first time, every time after that it doesn't. You don't have to be hit as hard. So like the fact that he is getting concussed and stuff like that more often is definitely a worry for him. Absolutely, because like as I said, the more you get concussed, the more susceptible you are to it. So it's I definitely wouldn't be taking more bangs than that if I was him. There he is there with the brandy.
That's all.
He went to the shop.
No, the internet was down, so it just gave me a perfect opportunity to fill up. Why not?
Richie, any thoughts on Shaw?
I think
the head
it's
injuries and stuff.
Yeah, it is, as Sean's just said. It's one of them. Once you get one injury, it's you're always susceptible. Another one, it's like the same with like hamstring injuries and stuff like that. Obviously, with concussions, especially being a centre half and stuff like that, you're going to be putting your head in places. Your aerial duels all the time and stuff like that. So it's one of them they're going to have to watch it. I'm sure the club are going to be sensible enough to be keeping an eye on it. And obviously, send them for the relevant scans and keeping on check on that. And obviously, if it's something where it becomes where his health's going to be affected long term and stuff, I'm sure the club would obviously have recommendations for him. And obviously, I'm sure he'd do exactly the same as well.
Okay, Pete, any thoughts on Shaw? Just we were talking about head injuries and stuff. One of the questions from one of the watchers was just he's had quite a few bumps and a few concussions, but not really too much talk about it. Anything to worry about, do you think?
Was that for me? I cut out a little.
Yeah, I did say Pete, but that's okay.
Sorry, just say it again.
The question.
Just we were talking about Shaw's obviously got another fair whack on Monday night, and one of the questions from the audience was he's had quite a few concussions and stuff now. Do you think that's anything to worry about?
No. I have. I'm not saying he played on it on Monday. I think he got a genuine whack. He wanted to play on. Eddie Howe said that. I think he'll be within a shout to play on Sunday, as probably one or two have already mentioned. I think there's a number of times where he goes down where it looks serious, where actually he's kind of playing it a little bit. And he's emphasizing the point because, like, after a little bit of treatment, he kind of pops up, and it's a bit of that shithousery that we talk about. That, like, he makes out that it's like a big injury, and then he gets a little bit of treatment. It gives everyone an opportunity to get a little bit of water, a little bit of rest, get to kind of talk tactics with Eddie Howe and Jason Tyndall and all the rest of it, and then all of a sudden he just pops up and he's bang back
some
on.
clever sports players. What we're
saying. Play into the cameras.
Play into the cameras. Okay,
it's definitely clever play, but in this situation, I think it was a genuine bang, and that's why I think you probably already alluded to it that Kraft was so quick to be there to support him. Do I think he'll be ready for Sunday? I think he'll be ready for Sunday. Do I think we'll play him? I don't know. He'll want to play, but I think with the protocols, I think it might be difficult. But you might not like this, Mark, but I actually thought Lascelles played all right.
No, I did say during the show, to his credit, when he came on, a few of the times the ball was kind of coming towards him, he took ball, man, hoarding, grass, and anything else that wasn't tied down around him. So listen, you lads, I've said plenty of times, when he plays well, I will give him credit for a good performance. When he plays poorly, I will call that out. That's the job. Okay, that's one more. We got a couple more in here before we move on to other bits, strikers and stuff. One for Sean. Nobby Clark and Jack Lincoln put this in, and a few others on Diego Carlos. Is Diego Carlos gone, or is that still a possibility, Sean?
With Tarkowski, no.
Okay. Anything to add to that? It's just a no.
No. Look, it was...
What I would add to that is who would you prefer, Tarkowski or Diego Carlos? Diego Carlos has had a great season at Seville.
Diego Carlos is fantastic.
If they were both are free, you're saying
there. Like the thing with Sevilla, and there's somebody else that kind of backed this up randomly when I put out a post on it and stuff like that, and they DM'd me, and it basically we were led down the garden path by Sevilla because there was a good relationship between a certain Spurs director and a director at Sevilla, and there was deliberate tactics there to lead us down the garden path and drag the deal out. They said we agreed the deal multiple times. We agreed the deal on a Friday, and they said, okay, he plays last game, and the release and stuff would be done on Monday, Tuesday, and both Carlos and Botman agreed their deals. You know, I got dog's abuse for that one when I put Botman tick and Carlos tick, and then was a Pete Graves he had on recently, and he said, yeah, both players actually agreed to deals. You know, he expected at least one of them to be done, like, you know, so it was good to see that kind of formed up. But look, again, it's something that we moved on for. Too expensive, you know, and you see how the defense has performed. Do we need that much investment right now in the defense on a 29, 30-year-old? Absolutely not.
Okay. I think it's what we said last week, isn't it? You bring Tarkovsky, who, yeah, he's not as good as Botman and you know, and Carlos, like you've just mentioned, but you get him for free. He's better than the majority of defenders that we've got at the club, so the squad improves and it allows you to spend money elsewhere.
Absolutely.
And about balance as well. Right back, right centre back, left centre back. It's all about that balance. This is what Eddie Howe's looking for. It's what this squad of players hasn't had for so long, is balance within the team. You get 2 right-sided centre-backs, 2 left-sided centre-backs, you got balance there. You're then in a position to not just go well in the league, but maybe in a cup or two. Carabao Cup, FA Cup.
Absolutely.
Push on and really be kind of a force within that, because you're able to change the centre-back pairings around, but they're still solid. Which is absolutely right. Tarkovsky coming in is clearly better than Jamal Lascelles. It's an upgrade, 100%. You bring a left-sided centre-back in, who that is. The main man, Sean, has already talked about a couple of options. It's then another option to Dan Burn. Better than Clark, better than Dummett. We are improving like tenfold, and then we're able to move forward. So it's just a perfect balance in that situation for sure.
Right, let's move on to wingers. Let's go. And the Banana Man is giving you the thumbs up for the shirt. I like that. That was a nice move, Banana Man. Yeah, wingers. What do you have?
I don't know him, by the way, just in case anybody thinks there's collusion or anything, or it's a show for promotion. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, you touched on Rafinha, Sean. Anything else you want to say about him?
Absolutely, in the mix room, you know, have Barcelona been distracted? I think Barcelona are only interested if they get relegated. They're not going to be in they're not going to be in the mix if they stay up. You know, absolutely too expensive. Are we going to be in the mix if they stay up? If they stay up, doubtful as well. But look, if you're talking what are their top targets, I think for a right-sided midfielder or even right side of a front three, absolutely Rafinha's up there. You know, you're talking Rafinha. Another one that's very interesting is Zaniolo from Roma. So they've scouted him in for a long time. You know, there's a couple of different bits of information that I got on that. You know, and I think there was something that was followed up by my friend that I showed you at the start of the show as well. You know, with his deal, what Newcastle want to do is, because he's after doing 2 ACL injuries, he's not going to sign a new contract at Roma. I think he has about 2-3 years left. What Newcastle would do, if it does become available, and if it depends on a combination, because it's how they work their budget around other targets, is that they'd look at a loan to buy, but the obligation would be based on games. You know, if he's available for 30 plus games or whatever that, then Newcastle do the deal from. You know, because again, there's question marks over his ACLs. You know, I think he's done it in both his left and right leg. You know, but he is definitely someone that Newcastle are very interested. So, you know,
who's this?
Zaniolo, he's a winger there for Roma. You know, the other thing as well is, could there be a swap deal there for St. Maximin? You never know.
Oh, hold on, Sean. Come on, man.
How would you feel about that?
Don't start this.
Get it done.
We'll get into
Don't start this shit.
We'll get into ASM in a minute.
One good game doesn't make a winger, Pete.
No.
Hey,
I'm not having it.
I'm a massive supporter of St. Maximin. Before we get into it, but we'll touch on that in a minute. But yeah, for right-sided wingers, you have Rafinha, Zaniolo, you have Brennan Johnson. You know, I probably kind of let the two of you know that, a few of you know, that allegedly his dad has been on Tyneside. You know, he's had a look around the club. He's taught them on what they see his future at. You know, there's massive interest there. You know, but he doesn't become an option if they get promoted. You know, but he is absolutely someone that they looked at. Diaby for Leverkusen.
Diaby.
Yeah, I don't think they're interested in him at that price. Being honest with you, because they are concerned about the crossover because the Bundesliga tax as well. Like, you know, they're worried about the crossover from the German league to the Premier League. Players don't transition that well, you know. So that's another question. Is he an option? Yeah, but not at that price. Like, they're being quoted like 60-70 million from him, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Just to rewind back a little bit, let's talk about Brennan Johnson. Obviously, he scored last night. Was it last night? I think
Yeah.
last night. And he scored again for Forest. He just looks a supreme talent, a young, hungry talent. And obviously, of course, if they get promoted, I think we had the conversation on WhatsApp last night, which we were talking about Brennan Johnson. And, you know, look, Sean, would it be the worst thing in the world if Forest get promoted? He has a year in the Premier League, shows his ability, and then we pick him up if they get relegated. Is that the worst thing in the world?
Absolutely not. Very much like we said about Lai Kelly. You know, we don't have to jump the gun and sign these players now. You know, like, Jimmy, it's very much, you know, like Liverpool were in talks with Konate since 2019. They only signed him last summer. You know, and that's very much the situation with likes of Brennan Johnson and stuff like that. Like, you know, I think very much in the summer, if he is going to, if they do get promoted and if Forest do get into negotiations with a club, I think Newcastle will definitely get involved. You know, whereas they'd be very happy as well to sit back and watch him play in the Premier League. Jimmy,
I'm worried that Brennan Johnson's going to go to another team. Having watched him a lot this season, and look, the first show with the Fully Loaded Transfer Show, me and Daz had the video of him scoring when he was at Lincoln in the FA Cup. Yeah. He had a fantastic run with them on loan. He's come back to Forest, had a great run. I'm genuinely worried about this talent, because I think he can go all the way. I think he's that good, and I just worry that one of the other top teams are going to try and pluck him and then bed him through. And I think we can do that. Like you just said, Sean, we're in a position where we don't have to get a player now. But just like Liverpool didn't have to get Diaz, but were then forced into it because Tottenham put the bid in. I would be happy with the fact if we plucked him in and just bedded him in with getting another right-handed winger, right-sided winger, and bedding him into the club that way. I just think he's got the world at his feet. I really do.
You know, I think there's absolutely no question Newcastle's interest, and regardless of what the fee is and the prices, I think we'll be very much involved, and it's down to the player. Supposedly his dad's had to be on Tyneside, he's had to look around the club and stuff like that, and I think they're happy with everything. So it's very much of what are the next steps it takes. I think it gets very serious if they don't come up. You know, and I wouldn't be surprised if they signed him and put him on loan the Championship for a season. You know, even if they don't see him playing week in, week out for Newcastle. Jimmy, it's he's definitely an option.
Okay, cool. How about Denjuma? Villarreal.
It looks like he's
linked up with Eddie Howe before in the past.
Look, I've been honest, I have nothing on that, and I'm not even going to lie about it. I don't know, is this a link that's been made because of his past with Eddie Howe and stuff? You know, and there is a decent release clause in there, but I've heard absolutely nothing on that. You know, if he signs in the morning, it's just because that's not the people I talk to. Jimmy, I've heard nothing on it. I think kind of in the forward position, really, you know, and looking at someone in that they class as a winger, more of a kind of left winger, really, is ITK. You know, he is very, very high on the agenda. He's a player that they want badly, you know. Again, you know, you might have seen my kind of tweets I put out previously and stuff like that. Like, you know, they have everything agreed with the club. You know, everything's in place. It's just very much down to the player agreeing now. He didn't turn down Newcastle in January, and I know you see a lot of fans saying, he didn't want it, he had no interest in the past, don't go back in for him. Definitely not the case. Like, you know, he just didn't want to move he didn't want to be in a relegation battle in January when he's only very much learning the game himself, you know, which is a clever move in my opinion, like, you know.
Mm-hmm. Cheers, Simon, as well. Simon's always on the case, and he's always on every show with us as well, actually. But I have never seen this guy play, and I've seen you mention his name, and I still haven't checked out what position he plays in. So this guy you keep talking about, Sean, Kane Lewis Potter from Hull. Yeah.
So the Newcastle are 100% interested in him. He can play all across the front three, really. You know, there's a lot of interest in him. I don't know at the moment, is he very much a backup if a Brennan Johnson deal doesn't come through, that they go for him, but kind of people that I've kind of spoken to, and these are not people in the know, these are just genuine fans, like, you know, and they believe that he has a similar type of ceiling as Brennan Johnson. You know, I don't know because I haven't seen him play. You know, I think Brennan Johnson, he can be anything he wants to be. You know, I mean, that's the level of talent he is. That fella Porter, I haven't seen him, and that's been deadly honest. I'd be lying if I said I did.
Cheers, Dave.
Maybe we should get into the strikers then, and I'm going to throw 2 names at you, and we'll probably fall out with you over these then. But I want to throw Calvert-Lewin and Ivan Toney at you, and you have been vocal on both these guys. What's your thoughts here?
I think Calvert-Lewin only becomes an option if they get relegated. You know, we don't get interested at a Premier League place, and at that he's fairly far down the list. You know, I was told he's maybe 6th, 7th choice, and I heard he's very much a target of Eddie Howe more than does he have full agreement across the board. I was told he doesn't. You know, and Ivan Toney, I'm a fan of Ivan Toney, but is he going to be that striker that's going to be your number 9 that's going to get you 20, 30 goals a season in the Premier League? I don't think so, but if you watch Ivan Toney play, he bullies centre-backs, he drops off the front and he links up play very well. You know, does Ivan Toney and Lucas Paqueta play in the same team because they kind of, granted Toney isn't a midfielder, but he likes to kind of occupy the space in between the midfielders and the strikers. So I'm a fan of Ivan Toney at the right price. I rate him highly. But I rate him highly as a club that's battling for top 10. Do I rate him highly for a club that's going for a top 6? No. You know, there's a bit of perspective has to be taken there as well. You know, for the top targets in the striker position, you know, Darwin Núñez, absolutely the top target. You know, from what I was told and from what I got from people is that there was no market there for him. You know, they've hiked up his price, you know, which I suppose he kind of dropped back off a bit, and now will very much be like the Haaland move to Dortmund, you know, where there'll be release clauses after a certain amount of time and stuff like that. Are Newcastle interested? Absolutely. Is he interested? I genuinely think he is. You know, and from what I got from people is that he does welcome the idea of a move to Newcastle. He wants to come to the Premier League, and I don't think he wants to take a big step too soon. And for an agent like Mendes, it doesn't make any sense, right, when you have a player of that value and that age, to put him at a top club straight away, because earning potential and stuff like that off deals, etc., you're cutting yourself out straight away. Whereas if you can put him into a Newcastle and then maybe in 2-3 years' time, let's be fair, the position that we're going to be in, it's only a Barcelona or Real Madrid will take him off us, or a PSG, you know, and that's just because of a move to a different league.
Are there concerns? Because the one thing that I've heard about Núñez, since he's obviously his Champions League exploits more recently, is that they've kind of reversed back to earlier on in the season and last season about his knee injuries.
Maybe so. There is concerns there, you know, like when you kind of talking to people and stuff like that, there's concerns over his injuries, and that's why big clubs don't want to invest in him. They want to see him kind of play over a prolonged period. And also there's massive reservations about his link-up play. Don't get me wrong, you give him a ball, he'll turn a defender and score 9 times out of 10. But your game needs to be a lot more well-rounded in the Premier League, you know, and that's why the question marks are around him, you know. And that's it with Núñez. Are we going to be involved? Absolutely. He's Steve Nixon's top target, you know, and that's not my information. I kind of followed up on, as I said, Mark Douglas was miles ahead of everybody on this. He had to drop on everybody on it. And it's just, for me, it's just asking people in general just about Núñez, where's it at, what you think is going to happen there. You know, the other ones to drop off in that, you have Alexander Isak. You know, I know for a fact they're in talks with Sociedad. I think they offered around 50 million in January. Hasn't come out yet, but it'll come out at some stage. They offered around 50 million at January, but I think the player was kind of focused on if a move to Arsenal's going to materialise. Now, he's had a bit of a stinker of a season, really, hasn't he? You know, I think he's 4 or 5 goals this season, you know, but that doesn't go to say that it depends on the setup you're playing. Like, you know, your man Alexander Schlatt, is it, or whatever his name is, he's the front and foremost, and kind of Isaac kind of plays in around the back. And then after that, the other one I was given was, and I know we talked about him in January, was Gianluca Scamacca. So what I got on that deal, absolutely, right, and this is what I got off our friend that I showed you earlier. Basically, what he said is that he didn't confirm whether it was Newcastle or another club, right? He signed a new deal with Sassuolo, right, under the agreement that he was only signing that new deal so he could sign for a club that is working around financial fair play, and it will be a loan to buy at the end of next year. So the club couldn't buy him outright for that fee, but they needed to push the fee down the road, and that's why he signed the new deal. Jimmy, so is that Newcastle? Is it Inter Milan? I don't know, but if you were to rate, from what I got, if you were to rate targets 1 and 2 for Steve Nixon, it'd be Nunes, Schumacher. You know, I think Patrick Schick, I don't think he's interested in moving, being honest with you. You know,
I've heard he's turned us down a couple of times now, even prior to them getting European football. So I put that up on Twitter, and I think me and you spoke about him last time over the DMs, and somebody mentioned the other night, and I put up, it's not going to happen, lads. He's turned us down 2 or 3 times. We went in for him a few times, and he's turned us down twice. It's not a deal I can ever see happening. I don't think he wants it, but we'll keep talking about it.
He turned down a different Newcastle, didn't he?
He did, yeah, that's true, yeah.
You know, I think with him though this isn't fucking information for people. It's just generally reading the news. Is that he wants to settle at a club for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
because he's had a lot of moving around, and he's not interested very much in the move at the moment. You know, Jimmy. So again, I think with striker targets, you have probably Nunes, Schumacher, definitely Ivan, Tony, Calvert-Lewin. They all come into the mix. Is there any surprise names in there? No. I think they see ITK as more of a left side of a front three. I don't think they see him as a central figure. You know, where they see him is that he's a player that you put out wide in the front three.
What about Sasa Kaladzic? Can you pronounce that?
I actually mentioned him on the show in January when I was on. He was one of the players that they were really watching, but I don't think they're following up their interest in the summer.
Okay. Go on.
Okay. What about, just to go back, because there's quite a few people keep throwing this in the chat. Obviously now with Haaland going to City, any hopes on
yeah, so I think I banged out a tweet about it a while back. You know, they're absolutely interested, but it's a very tough one to sell to him right now. You know, I think he has his choice of, like, he has Arsenal, he has a choice of Italian clubs. You know, so I think very much we're not in the position to sign him at the moment. I think he would be fantastic. He'd be ideal for Eddie Howe's kind of pressing game. You know, but I can't see it happening. Are they interested? Absolutely. If he becomes available towards the end of the window, very much like Bruno Guimaraes, will we be there to make a move? Definitely.
Okay. Interesting one there, just before we do slightly move on. Obviously, we're talking about all these incomings, but obviously Simon raises a good point about outgoings. So freeing up squad space. So any kind of, we've seen a couple on John Joe, apparently on matters earlier on. John Joe's being moved on, last game played, yada yada. But it's funny, we obviously do need to make up squad space. So where is it at, John?
There was a Fulham fan actually kind of onto me a good bit during January, basically saying that he's been told a few times, and bits and pieces of this fella's information actually checked out, that they expected John Joe Shelby to sign for Fulham in January. You know, obviously it didn't happen. It kind of sounded unrealistic, didn't like? But I've asked the question a couple of times, and I've been told that, like, very much so he could move on in the summer. You know, it's not a given that he stays. I don't know what was said in matters, so I don't want to say something and it sounds like I'm copying them. But it's with all due respect to the lads, like, the fantastic bunch. From what I got on Shelby is that I think Shelby wanted to know what his position was in the team next year. And with all these incomings and stuff like that, and he was told that he's not guaranteed to be a starter, you know. And I think that at this stage of his career, I think he'd take a move if he got it, and I think he wants to move back down south.
Do you think that's why there's the rumour of Longstaff being offered the new contract then?
I think Longstaff is offered a new contract because, and this is something that I've had good conversations with people kind of in and around the club and stuff like that, like, you know. And Eddie Howe's biggest job for me wasn't keeping Newcastle in the Premier League. It's replacing the dressing room. And that's what he has to do this summer. You look at the players that are leaving, Newcastle's dressing room kept him in the Premier League for the last couple of seasons. He now has to replace that dressing room. Keeping Paul Dummett was vital. You know, keeping Sean Longstaff is vital. You know, you could lose Lascelles and Shelvey in the summer. So you're taking Lascelles, Shelvey, Matt Ritchie, Dwight Gale. All these people were big figures in the dressing room. You know, and that's why you'll see Eddie Howe being linked with players like, you know, Lodi that knows Guimaraes, Paqueta that knows Guimaraes, you know, Trippier that knows Lodi. I think that he wants a bit of a connection, that players that know each other, that it's they're not turning up for training on the first day of pre-season with name badges on, kind of shaking hands saying, I owe you, you know. So for me, you know, and I think it's definitely a talking point that I think the biggest job Eddie Howe has on his hands, and I kind of talked to a few people and stuff like that, and they believe that replacing the dressing room is going to be the toughest task, because that dressing room is supposedly fantastic. You know, I know they had leaks and stuff like that, but those leaks are more because Steve Bruce was there. You know, but look, when the backs were against the wall, they always kind of pulled out of the bag. And I think that's Eddie Howe's biggest task, is replacing the dressing room.
Okay, nice. Richie, you had a question you wanted to get to as well.
Yeah, obviously everyone's talking about it, and this is obviously something we'll discuss a bit more in depth next week when we've got Mitch and Kieran Maguire on about FFP. Now, obviously, we're talking a lot of money for people like Paqueta, possibly Nunes and other people. But obviously, we've already touched on James Tarkowski coming in on a free. Are you hearing any other possible moves for players that are out of contract that could be linked to, Sean?
They looked at Grilisic. I think they kind of teased around the contract and stuff like that with him, and I know they're very interested in him. Have they followed up on that? I really don't know, but he's definitely one of interest. And Eddie Nakata from Arsenal, but very keen on him. They rate him very highly, but with his run of form with Arsenal and stuff like that, and with them missing out on Champions League spots, what I got last week is that they believe he's going to sign a new contract at Arsenal. You know, but if he doesn't, we will definitely be putting money on the table for him. You know, and that's it really on the free transfers. You know, that's all I've gotten it. Because when you're signing somebody on a free transfer, there's very little people involved. You know, there's no club involved. You know, there's no other club involved. So the leagues, it's a really tight kind of, it's a tight circle there. Like, you know, so what I got was off the free transfers, they were interested in Tarkowski, they were interested in Grilisic, they were interested in Niketa, and there was Lingard, but that was very much, I think Newcastle only wanted to give him 70, 80 grand, which is probably, I think it's more than what his capabilities are, and that's been deadly honest with you. You know, to give fucking Lingard more money than Alan St. Maximin is absolute nuts. Like 150 grand for Lingard. My God. You know, like, I don't rate him at all. You know, he had a good stint at West Ham, and he came on as a sub a few times to Manchester United when they were cruising in games and stood out. You know, not for me. You know, if it happens, it happens. But look, definitely not for me. With the talks of budget and FFP and stuff like that, and as you said, you have the lads on next week, so I won't kind of get into it too much. I know a lot about the financial side of football, but Kevin Maguire is probably at the forgetting more than I know. You know, so I'm not going to get into it too much. But previous to the January transfer window, Newcastle were able to spend 500 million, and they were able to put out 48 million in wages. Right, that's player amortization over 3 years and stuff like that. That's what they are available for the 3 years going forward. You know, people will talk about this 50 million, 60 million, 80 million budget. Could there be a bit of sense to it? Maybe. What people have to realise is that everything that Newcastle spend, right, outside of what the club earns, Amanda Staveley has to put 10% towards that. Amanda Staveley is a wealthy woman to me and you, but she's a pauper compared to the likes of Rubens and PIF and stuff like that. Like, you know, her net worth is probably, 100 million? So does she have the available cash to put towards deals and stuff like that? So I think is there a little bit of truth to it? Maybe based on that. But from what I'm getting from people, you know, is that it's absolutely not an issue. That in the morning, if Sam Botman, Lucas Paqueta and Darwin Nunes became available for the prices that Newcastle want them, they'd sign them. You know, and again, that word fluid, and I know Mitch mentioned it a few times, and it's funny that he has, because it's something that's been mentioned to me a lot as well, that they will very much react to the transfer window. They have their key targets that they go out and sign. I believe myself, it'll be in around the 120, 150 million mark. You know, they plan on spending that in about the last 4 days of the transfer window in January. You know, that's the bids that they were making. So, look, is it a kind of clever thing to kind of dampen expectations? Maybe so. You know, could there be a sense in, you know, for me, are they saying that they're going to spend 60 million as an upfront fees on transfers, whereas you sign Lucas Paqueta, you spend 10 million up front? That's 10 million off your 60 million budget, you get me? You know, and then the rest of it kind of gets spaced out over transfers, and the deal is paid over 2-3 years. Because what you have to remember is we have absolutely no commercial revenue at the moment. You know, and that is a big kicker, like, you know. So from us, we're at a standstill. Like, all that comes into the club really is the Sky deal, you know, with sponsorships and stuff like that. Like, you know, it's absolutely irrelevant, like, you know, and that's why they do have big sponsorship deals lined up.
Cheers, Jordy, Mick, as well. Is this a nice time to segue into the commercial sponsorship, or does anyone have any more transfer related topics they want to bring to the table? Now we can circle back around again.
No, I wouldn't mind just going back to just back up from Lee Errington. I thought it was a pretty good question, just for I suppose Sean. Are the club looking at any quality young players to build up the youth development squad in the under-23s? Do you know?
So this
I
is
can
very
answer
much.
that. The guy from Galway, Alex Murphy, Galway United.
So I think what you
man on the spot.
I think what you start to see over the summer, I think you might see another 3-4 scouts added, and very much to the youth ages. You know, Dan Ashworth. I know people are saying, "Oh, Dan Ashworth's going to be in at this date and that date and stuff like that because they need it for the transfer window." Absolutely not. Dan Ashworth is going to build his vision from the 23s back. You know, he's going to look at what the under 13s, 14s, 15s, 16 are doing, and he's going to say, he's going to have conversations with Eddie Howe and say, "What's your vision for the football club? Where do you see it? Let's implement this all the ways back." And then he'll have scouts in place to get these players in. You know,
Rangers score. Sorry, ball for Rangers. 56 minutes gone. Rangers take the lead. 1-0 Rangers. Wow. Yeah, mistake from Frankfurt Eintracht. Aribo pounces on the ball, runs through two defenders, and slots past the keeper. 56 minutes gone. Rangers 1, Frankfurt Eintracht 0. Sorry for interrupting. A bit late now, whoever did that. Thanks very much.
It's me. I just don't care. I don't care.
Sorry, Sean. Carry on, lad. Sorry.
Yeah, so look, I think maybe not so much in the summer, but definitely going forward, you know, they definitely want to see something from the youth academy. Newcastle had no players under 21 start for the team this year. That's absolutely nuts. Crazy, you know. When you think of Newcastle, the size of Newcastle, to have absolutely no players under 21 play for the team, it's crazy. You know, the top target again for kind of under that age is ITK, but they're definitely looking at players. You know, they're looking at a couple of players from Rangers and stuff like that. Like, you know, I can't think of the names off the top of my head now, but they're not names that you hear every day, so I can't remember them. But it's definitely something that they're looking at.
The one thing I'll say about Dan Ashworth is that he has followed a similar model like what England have done. Obviously, he was there. He's followed a similar model that Man City have done and done really, really well in that, and actually Barcelona, in that he mimicked the way in which Brighton set up. He's mimicked that in the under-23s, in the under-18s, in the under-16s, and all the way through. Man United were the first club to do that. And in terms of, they all play the same formation, they all play the same style of football, they all play with the same emphasis and the same philosophy of football. That is what Dan Ashworth has brought in. And the one thing that I've noticed about our under-23s going through to the youth academy is that that's not the same. The formations are different, the way we play is different, the style is different. That is the one thing that makes the club as good as what it is, and it enables young players to come through. Why? Because they play a certain way. So it's easy to bring them through because they know the style, they know the formation, they know what's expected in their role within the team, whether it's the under-23s, the under-16s, the under-18s, or the first team, and they can play the same way. That is what Dan Ashworth will bring in to the club once he gets his foot in the door. And that's going to be one of the key things, is emphasising the philosophy of the club and the way in which we want to play.
And again, to touch on, I suppose, Dan Ashworth, while we're on the subject, I know a lot of people are kind of saying that, and this is not to put down anybody's information, my information is just a little bit different. Am I right or wrong? Fuck, I don't know. You know, the thing is, look, when it comes to Dan Ashworth, I can safely say that I had it months before anybody else. And we would have seen the screenshots and the DMs and stuff like that. To circle around on it, with Dan Ashworth, I was told that there is no set fee release clause, right? The way his contract was done, it was a 1-year rolling contract, right? From February to February, right? In November, when it comes into the last 3 months of his year contract, he has to let them know and sign on and say, I'm staying on for another year. It's like a 3-month notice kind of thing, or else I'm going, right? And if he's going, he can go and say, I think it's like the 19th of November or something like that. But he has to let them know before he's going. You know, so there is no end of season fee or anything like that. Will they agree on? More than likely, because the closer it gets to November, Brighton will see the price tag drop off and they'll just say, look, let's go for it. Do they wait until the end of the transfer window to do that? You know, where he has less of an impact, whereas I don't think he'll have an impact anyway. Maybe so. do Brighton want to wrap up a couple of targets that they believe Ashworth might try to get pushed across to Newcastle? Probably a clever thing to do, but I don't think there's any set fee because the nature of his contract is that it runs from February to February, and the 3 months notice that he has to give obviously starts back in November.
Makes sense.
So he starts next week then.
Probably. I'm waiting out to log off then to be breaking news. Clause revealed.
Yeah.
Fucking Chris Wood all over again.
Clause being out. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think that's it from transfers. Or do you want me to give you one more bit of information that I can tell you that
Go on.
100%?
Yeah.
A special
Sean wouldn't say no, lad.
Is this
100%. Right. So 100% I can confirm because I got this about 2 weeks ago. Followed up by another couple of people that are very well placed, and then I got it again last night off somebody who keeps a kind of low profile on Twitter, but to get very good information is that we are in talks with Gareth Bale. That is 100%. It'd be a free transfer, pay as you play, and it's very much we are in talks with him at the moment. Where it ends up, am I a fan of it? I honestly really don't know. If Gareth Bale, as we've seen for Wales, is absolutely incredible. Is he the jersey seller and does he piggyback on Saudi golf and stuff like that?
Yeah,
maybe
so.
Yeah.
But
That would make
I
perfect
can
sense.
guarantee, look, if the deal happens, the
Fair
deal happens. I really don't know, but I know for a fact 100% he's in talks. Does it happen? Being honest with you, I think if Wales qualify, I think he goes to a club like Newcastle. If they don't qualify, he might go to a Cardiff. Do you get me? If that makes sense, I think he'll want to keep his game sharp at a higher level. And don't get me wrong, if you have a Gareth Bale option on the bench and stuff like that, like, when the man plays, he's still phenomenal. Like, he still has it. So there you go.
If we have Saudi Golf as our sponsor and get Gareth Bale, one of his agreements in his contract will be he needs to be entered into that Saudi Golf tournament.
Wouldn't be surprised.
He's trying to get himself into that tournament.
minus 17 handicap. Exactly. But that does, to be
You're worth
fair,
watching then.
that does fit in because the four of us also know, because we've obviously been chatting to lots of other people, that part of the stories around the green and white shirt and a name and all this other stuff has been floating around, and we've had good information between the four or so of us prior to this discussion from Sean. We've had names, and that was one name that was given to us around somebody that they want to put in a shirt that sells, that is a name that is a marquee signing as such, but opens up that corridor into that sponsorship and into those shirt sales. And look, somebody like that certainly takes you down that avenue. But yeah, interesting.
For what I got, like when it comes to sponsorships, I see a lot of names banging about and stuff like that. One sponsorship that I was told is definitely going to happen, whether it's a jersey sponsorship or does it sponsor something else, I really don't know. But is that Saudi Airways, Saudi or whatever they call it, is
Saudi.
100% going to be one of the sponsors, and they want to tie in that announcement if they possibly can with the redevelopment of Newcastle Airport. So PIF plan on making huge changes to Newcastle Airport. You're talking, they want to make Newcastle Airport a hub airport, in the sense of the way you have London, Manchester and stuff like that, where people from Ireland, they'd fly from, say, Cork to Manchester out to the States and stuff like that. They want direct flights to Riyadh and stuff like that, and they want to create Newcastle Airport to be one of the hub airports in England, and they want to tie in the sponsorship announcement with that. Is it true or not? Being honest with you, the same person that told me this told me about the training ground redevelopment, which I tweeted about months before everybody else. He told me that there was going to be the training ground redevelopment. I put it out and it came to fruition. And then this information, I kind of sat in it for a while because I was kind of like, look, I see what comes out, because I didn't really care if I had a drop on it or not. But someone randomly tweeted me, DM'd me the other day as well about it, that doesn't talk shit or doesn't make things up, and he's not into this kind of ITK stuff and stuff like that. And he said to me, so I was kind of like, fuck it, there must be a bit to it. The other information as well is that what I was told is that they have a site for the new training ground, and it's going to be in Killinworth. Don't know the area obviously because I'm not from Newcastle, but they have plans drawn up. Everything is in place. I think it's kind of gone out for approval allegedly, and that's where they're going to put the new training ground.
Do you know the area, Richie?
I did know it a lot more when I used to live over Whitley Bay, but obviously that's a long time. It's been redeveloped quite a lot since then. But I'll have a look at about and see what I can find out, and then obviously for our next show, I'll see what I can bring to the show for that.
I'll ask you, Martin, but you don't know where you're from.
That's true. Where's the airport? I thought Sunderland had an airport, no? Apparently for that lad that's flying to Spain to get to Wembley for Saturday.
I seen that.
I just presume Sunderland had an airport, that's all. Because, they don't really call it Newcastle Airport, do they, over that side of the river? So, yeah, let's see. Anyway, moving swiftly along from our Wembley-bound friends on Saturday. All joking aside, and I know I will take flack, a good chunk of my mates are Mackems, as much as I don't want to really see them get into the Championship or anything else. But all my mates who are travelling to Wembley on Saturday, be safe, lads. Enjoy yourselves. Don't jump in the fountains in Trafalgar Square. Certainly don't let anybody take a shit in them. Have a good day at Wembley. And I do hope they do well, because you need to get out of League One, lads. It's not good if you have another season there. So, yeah, go down there, behave yourselves, and hopefully they do get a win. And I know people will object to that, but, yeah, my mates are Mackems, so unfortunately I have to wish them well. Anyway, moving along.
Sean, just touching on the what you mentioned about the training ground about Killingworth. Did you happen to have like an area in Killingworth? I've just got the map up now.
You buy land, Richie. You're gonna buy land.
Nothing concrete on it in the sense of nothing that I can hang my hat on, but the belief was that I think they're a young boys club or something around there. And I think there's a lot of land into the back of that. It's close to main roads and access roads and stuff, and that's very much the location that would probably make more sense.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it on the map now. It's to be fair, it's not too far away from obviously the current training ground. You talked about within 2 to 3 miles away from where it is at the moment. Killingworth's just off the A19, which is obviously a major route as well. So there's plenty of land thereabouts. So obviously it's just obviously whether they put a bid in for it and it gets accepted, and obviously we see
and
what plans might look in a few years.
Yeah, and I think they're going to look at sponsorship for the redevelopment of the training ground as well.
Yeah,
so it might be your Ramco training ground at Benetton or something, Benton or something like that. It's very much what I got is that I don't think they're going to go too thick and heavy with the sponsorships at the start, and for the simple fact of you can justify sponsorship a lot more next year in the sense of with this Saudi away shirt. And let's be fair, that's what it is. It's a mark of respect to our owners. They're the ones that put the money into the club. We can enjoy their money without enjoying their colours as well. And it goes hand in hand. So basically, with this jersey, say for example, say we sell 1 million jerseys now. This jersey in Saudi will sell like hotcake. So when they go next year and they say our jersey sales for the past year, they will say 7 million or whatever like that, because there would be astronomical growth because of this jersey in Saudi. Then they can go to a Nike or an Adidas or wherever like that, or even they can go to the Premier League, say we have a sponsorship there for Ramco and we can justify this sponsorship because our jersey sales have grown by this much over this period of time. Jamie, so I think a lot of what sponsorships happen now might be a little bit short, so they can justify bigger sponsorships in the future. And that's very much why they kept Castori on for another season.
Goal. Sorry. Frankfurt have equalised. 1-1. 69 minutes gone. And Frankfurt equalise.
Who scored? Was it this guy?
No, it wasn't.
No.
Just tell him it was.
Hang on a minute, Jeff. Somebody scored. Yeah, I'm not sure who it is. It'll come back up in a minute anyway. But
our hiring, Sky hiring. There you go.
Bore is the one who has scored.
A quick question for Sean. You won't know the answer to this, Sean, but I just want to let you know. The US trip preseason being cancelled. Any chance that Eddie Howe will bring them over to Ireland so we can all go and meet them?
Absolutely. Why not?
Why not?
What I got from this basically was that they're going to try to replicate the tournament in Europe somewhere if they can. I think the 4 clubs that were agreed on actually kind of going on the tournament, there was the agreement is that the 4 of them will honour their commitment, and if they can get it in maybe in Spain or somewhere in Portugal or something like that, they absolutely would. And then the fallback from that would maybe a trip to Ireland or something. But he very much wants to get a tournament on with with like-minded teams. It's very much that they're going to try and replicate the tournament for somewhere else before they look at a fallback plan like going to Ireland or something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
It makes sense purely because I mentioned this the other day on another pod. In actual fact, with the redevelopments are not going to happen like that. The redevelopments are going to take time. So therefore, the training ground for periods of time is probably going to be out of use. So it makes sense that they made the US tour part of their preseason the plans. The fact that that's not happening now, what you're saying, Sean, is that there could be a potential of Ireland or somewhere else as an alternative. I fully expect our preseason to be elsewhere for the vast majority of it, that we're training elsewhere. Some people have said Saudi Arabia. For me, I think it might be too hot at that point in the year.
There's a little bit to that as well, though, that they are looking at a trip to Saudi. Maybe, I think, they're looking at the international break in around September, October. You know, whatever players don't get up on international break, that they'll travel to Saudi. You know,
and they'll have fans at the game. The last one behind closed doors.
Yeah. So there might be a little mini tournament or something like that, just to generate a bit of revenue or whatever. But yeah, look, I think a trip to Saudi is definitely on the cards. But I was told that they will spend a lot of time away from the training ground, and you will see my tweet there from a couple of months back. When I said that, but I think that they might look at using the stadium, and they might even look at using the Newcastle Foundation as well. I don't know what the setups is like there, but they'll definitely look at something around Newcastle that they can use as well, you know, rather than the training ground itself.
There you go, Chesley Street, Richie. There you go. Was anything else on sponsorship, lads, before we move on to another topic?
No, there's nothing else. I don't think there's too much in there.
How quickly do we think the first sponsorship will be coming about? You know,
well, there was no application made to the Premier League to wear the new jersey, so that will tell you that fun is obviously gone. You know, because they have to make an application to the Premier League to actually wear a new strip for the last game of the season. So there's no new way kit. So fun is definitely gone. So fun's contract is up in June. So very much once that's done, you'll see the actual jersey with the print on it. But I'd say very early June. If not, don't be surprised if it's next week. You know, what I was told is that they have 2 sponsorships definitely done. You know, and one of them is the sleeve sponsorship. The other one is the sponsorship for the middle of the jersey.
Cool. Yeah. Right, let's move on to CEO. Do you have any news on that, Sean?
Not really. You know, I think when it got down to about 8, I had about 6 of the people that were on the 8 list. But now it's very close to the club. I don't know. I was hardest down to a last 3. And I think one of them is involved in a Premier League club. Is a female involved in a Premier League club. One of them is not involved in football at all, and the other one is kind of football on the continent. I know Michael Edwards was the top target going into it, but I think he has his interest elsewhere.
Okay, fair enough. I'm going to. Anyone else has other suggestions? But if not, we'll go to outgoings. And I know there was a question in the chat as well that Pete has just gone to top up the brandy, but he'll walk back into both of them are gone. I was going to bring up the topic of ASM, but if we can't bring up that topic without the 2 main rivals in the ASM battle out of the picture. So let's park ASM for a second. And anything about anyone else linked away, Sean?
Realistically, I asked the question on it and what I was told, and this is I think this isn't even putting kind of, how would you say, in the no information on it, something like that. You know, outside the likes of, you have your Dan Byrne, your Bruno Gomes, Joe Wellington. You know, obviously another couple I've left out, but almost every player has a price on his head. You know, so if they get a good offering for Jamal Lascelles, they'd sell him. If they get a good offering for Shelby, they'd sell him. I wait for ASM till the lads come back. But no sale is off the cards. But the thing is that they don't want to sell too much because he wants to keep the dressing room. Jimmy, and that's what they see as the biggest task ahead of them is losing the dressing room. You know yourself, you make too many changes to a dressing room too quick. You know, that's Eddie Howe out the door. Jimmy, unfortunately.
Yeah, backfire. Yeah. Cool.
Are we waiting for David to come back on for ASM, are we?
No, let's move on.
All right, then let's
because I don't want to be listening to him having another love-in over one game. Come on, let's move on.
Let's go for it.
So to put ASM into perspective, and I know you listen to a lot of people that they come on and they'll say, look, these are stories that we can't talk about because they're given confidential and stuff like that. But this is just general stuff that's in the media, and this is just for people to kind of drop their own conclusions on things, right? You would have listened to Trippier when he was on the True Geordie podcast. right? And he said,
Yeah.
Sam, fantastic talent, but he's getting fined every day, right? Eddie Howe, he's a very strict manager, a set of rules. Everybody obeys them. The team works together, right? That's one side of it. The other one then is that you had we played against Everton, and Sam Maximin had his best game in a Newcastle shirt. Absolutely incredible, right? After the game, allegedly, he claimed that he had a calf strain or he was fatigued and his legs were sore from getting kicks and stuff like that, and there was an undiagnosable injury, right? At that time, Newcastle brought in Dave Galley, from he used to be at Liverpool, recognised as probably one of the top physios in England. Eddie Howe was saying very much, look, you're fine and fit, like, you know. So they played him in the game against Villa, and the game against Villa, he might as well have had a cup of coffee on the pitch for him. He didn't really move, you know. He didn't do a tap, and then his injury, his calf injury and stuff like that, and Eddie Howe kind of was unconforming it and stuff like that in the press. He didn't really know what to say, you know. It was kind of one of the first things that you didn't really see structured answers from. So ASM kind of, the club didn't diagnose an injury, you know. They didn't see an injury there, and ASM wanted to go to his physio in Monaco, which coincided with the release of his Helios brand in Monaco. Do you get me? You know, does that seem like, and this is stuff that's out in the press for everybody to see, you know? Jimmy, does that seem to you like a character that Eddie Howe will tolerate for a long time?
No.
By God, the man is talented, you know. He has all the talent in the world when he applies it, you know, but he won't track back for love nor money, you know. And again, Eddie Howe's thing is teamwork. You're only as strong as your weakest link. He won't take someone that's going to kind of burst into a game for 10-15 minutes, you know. My prediction on this, and people might like it or might not like it, and this is kind of info that I've had as well, and the people have said a few times, if the right offer comes in, he sell him. In the long term, they see ITK replacing him as the left side of the front three. Jimmy, they want a harder working talent in the team. Jimmy, I wouldn't be surprised if, look, ASM could be anything he wants to be, just like Adam Ben Arfa and stuff like that, you know. But I've heard the alleged stories and stuff like that from the training ground and stuff like that, like, you know, and it's kind of like, fuck me, you know. It's a bit nuts, like, you know, when you bring in a Brio branded player, a Bruno Gomes, a Darwin Núñez, a Lucas Paqueta, you know, when you start bringing in these bigger type of players, you tolerate the talents like ASM and the characters like the ASM a lot less. Yeah. You know, they become less important and they become more of a hindrance. You know, as I said, all the talent in the world, I'm a big backer of him, but kind of some of the stuff that I've heard and just stuff reading in the press and stuff like that, I question what his long-term future is in Newcastle. And I really do. I think this season, if he doesn't develop more to his game, I think he's gone. You know, and being honest with you, if they got offered 50 million in for the summer, they snap the hand off it. You know, regardless of what Eddie Howe says in press conferences, I think Eddie Howe has said that he's loved every single player that's ever played for Newcastle so far in his press conferences. Like, so I take what he says from that sense with a pinch of salt. Like, but I definitely think he's a player with a price on his head.
Hold on.
Here we go.
Here we go.
First things first, I agree with what Sean's saying. We've talked about it before. 1 year, I think he's got the next year to prove himself. So for me, I think he stays. I don't think they'll accept a bin in the summer personally, although Sean, you've heard differently. I think he's got 1 year to prove himself. If he doesn't prove himself, he moves on. The one thing a couple of things I maybe slightly disagree with you on is that actually you talked about Bruno and one or two other players maybe getting frustrated with him. From what I'm seeing, I actually think they're closer to him than anybody else. I think the likes of Bruno Gomes and Callum Wilson, they seem to befriend him more than anybody else. And I think there's ultimately, don't do this.
That's Martin.
This is Martin. Fuck off.
Sorry, I just thought you wanted some romantic music.
I don't want romantic. But these are genuine points. These are genuine points that I'm putting out there. I'm saying, from what I'm seeing, is that Bruno Gomes, Callum Wilson, probably our two most influential players, are the ones that go to him. They have the best relationship with him. He's closer to them than anything else. You look at Bruno Gomes' gender reveal party. There's only two players that are there Fede Fernandez and ASM. None
I
of the
think
other players there. For
I think
me,
you're taking my point a bit wrong on that, Dave. I think what I'm saying is that from Eddie Howe's perspective, if you have talents like Paqueta and Guimarães and stuff like that, and they might be really, really close with ASM, there's no question there. But if you're Eddie Howe and if you're demanding a certain level from these type of players, and you have ASM over on the side doing whatever he wants to do, you know, I think Eddie Howe has to question it in, you know, and that's what I look at.
This was the same question. So me and Pete, anybody who watches this show and watches this pod know that me and Pete have differentiating ideas on ASM. Now, listen, when he's on his form, absolutely no better player. Is he the player we build the team around? In my belief, he's not. That's my view. Pete sees different things. But what I've said, what my issue has been is one game out of however many, when he does turn it on, for me is not enough. Because it's not what we need, and we can't always carry that in the team. That was being my point. If he can add that extra bit of consistency in that final third, right the way through next season. And some people are going, "Oh, he needs another season. He needs better players around him. He needs all this other stuff." I don't think he does. If you're a player, you're a player, and he can turn it on when he wants to. But he has that Frenchness in him that he can be moody. He can. So I'd love to get that word in. He has all those other things. So. I totally agree. And the thing that I said, which, to be fair, Pete has agreed with as well, is why has no other big club come in to snap him up as a talent prior to him coming to Newcastle? There's problems there somewhere.
I watched the Man City game, and you see ASM, and I know it's Man City, you know, fucking huge team, like, but like he had a look over his shoulder, he seen Cancelo move, and he just turned away. You know. When the stakes get higher and Newcastle are going for top 6 next season, he starts doing that. You know, you don't accept it. You know, I want ASM to succeed, and I want ASM to be our star man and stuff like that, because on his game, he is fantastic, but they need to be more frequent, you know. And I think like I think we're judging him on Bruce Ball and stuff as well like that. Like, you know, I think he deserves a full season under Eddie Howe because the talent is there. Yeah. And I think he deserves a season to prove himself, because
there's no use him in the right way. Want him to succeed, Sean. I'm exactly the same. I don't not want him to do well. I want him to do well, because when you see the same ASM that played on Monday night, if he just puts that in every single game, I'd be dead happy.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? But it's just that consistency, and give me that over those games. Is all.
I think the thing for ASM as well at the moment is that you can go and you can double up on ASM and you don't have to worry about anybody else. You know.
But that's my point.
That's the problem.
That's what I was going to get to in a second. There's 2 points that I was going to get to. You mentioned the second point, Sean, and I'll come back to that in a second. The point that I'm making about ASM, in what you saw on Monday night, and I talked about it on our review, the one thing you saw from ASM on Monday, the reason why his performance was so much better, is for that exact reason, that he's not the emphasis in the club. He's not a player that you build a team around, because he's not that type of guy. What he is an additional player that is a match winner. When you've got Callum Wilson up there as a focal point, taking on the 2 centre-backs, dominating those boys up there and creating problems going forward, what that does, it takes the emphasis on. So when you're Arsenal, when you're Mikel Arteta, and you're looking at your team and you're putting your tactics together, without Callum Wilson, you're going stop ASM, you stop Newcastle being a threat. When you've got Callum Wilson up top, it's a case of, right, we need to do this, and this to stop Callum Wilson. We need to do this, and this to stop ASM. We need to do this, and this to stop Bruno Guimarães. If you're bringing Lucas Paqueta in, you've then got 4 players to worry about. If you're bringing another striker in, you've got another player to worry about that could potentially come off the bench, or Wilson come off the bench. ITK, another option. What you're doing is you're emphasising, you're spreading wide the tactical system in which an opposition team has to worry about. For 3 years, the only player that anybody that's come up against Newcastle United has had to worry about is ASM. You stop 100%. ASM, you stop Newcastle United. ASM is not that guy. He's not a guy that you build a team around. But what you do And what we saw on Monday night is when you've got 3 or 4 players to worry about in Newcastle United, he's able to play his game and he's able to make a difference. Why? Because he hasn't got 3 men on him. At no point in that game on Monday did he have 2 or 3 men marking him. He had a one-on-one with Tomiyasu. He left him for dead, got him injured, got him off. He did the same with Cedric. He tore him apart. He played deep, he played wide, he played long. He changed up his game because he had the opportunity to do so. If you've got a team of better players next season, and this is what he's talked about, you will see a better ASM because he'll have more time on the board, he'll have more time to cut inside and do his business, and he'll be able to destroy teams on top. And that's my opinion. The second thing, and you talked about, and it's a great point, and I'm glad you mentioned it, Sean, with regards to Eddie Howe. Is Eddie Howe going to accept this from ASM? And you're rightly more inclined and rightly saying, yeah, he's not going to accept this for another year. But he has to a certain extent, because Eddie Howe is trying to prove himself in managing top-level players that are difficult to manage, players that are out there and a little bit different. And he has to a certain extent, prove if he's going to be that top-level manager and he's going to be that manager that Newcastle United trust to take to that next level.
Yeah, that's a good point, Pete. That's a good point.
Those top-level players, those players that are a little bit eccentric and a little bit out there. So to a certain extent, yes, he has to prove that. And that's why he's played every single game when fit, when available for Newcastle United, because he's trying to prove not just that he can manage that type of player, but he
can get the best out of him
in a system. Yeah. And no other team has been able to do that. Steve Bruce has just let him get on with it. Just said, ASM, do whatever you want to do. And he's been given that license.
Here's the ball.
He's loved that. Now he's got to come into a system, and he's found it difficult at times. Now you're seeing the more Eddie Howe's working with him, being able to come into a system, better players coming in. He's going to, if anything, if he can get ASM playing in that system with better players around him, that will propel Eddie Howe to top level more than ever. Why? Because of the reasons that you, Mark, and everyone else has said about ASM, that he's unmanageable. He's difficult to manage. What you're finding is that if he can get the best out of him, he can go and put that on his CV to say, ASM, difficult character, done this, and this, but I've still got him doing the business and I've still got him playing. And that's the reason why he'll persist with him for at least another year.
I think maybe so he persists, but like there's a lot of hypotheticals there, Pete. You know, you're talking for a player that's 24, 25. We still don't know what his game is. You know, like he still struggles to cut back onto his right foot playing as an inverted winger, right? You're talking when you're playing as an inverted winger, your basic should be you can call onto your right foot and you can find a midfielder. He very, very rarely does that. And that's the basics for somebody that's meant to be at that level for Alan St. Maximin. Do you get me? And I know you're just saying that we need better players and stuff like that, and teams can double up on him a lot easier and stuff like that. But even against weaker teams, you know, if he's not feeling it, he'll get a kick and he'll limp for a bit and stuff like that. Like, you know, it's.
I agree.
I think. Look, he absolutely frustrates the life out at the best of times. Is the talent there? Absolutely, but I think it's gone past the stage of a manager have to manage him. I think he needs to step up himself and become worthy of being man-managed. And that's been deadly honest with you. You know, there's only so much a manager can do. Eddie Howe, very much like Doc Rivers created with Boston Celtics back in the day. You know, he's after creating that team. And he said to some of the best basketballers ever, you come and you play within my team. I'm not going to micromanage you, or you don't play at all. You know, and ASM needs to take the responsibility himself to come in and be part of the team.
This is what next season's all about, and this is why we say 1 year.
Absolutely.
Let's just to close down on the ASM topic. I look forward to when ASM is going up to collect his Ballon d'Or. He has Pete in the audience with him as his main backer, and he walks up with his Frenchness and goes, "This is for you, loaded Marky." So let's see what happens in the future. So.
I fucking hope you.
I was going to say if that gets my bro Pete a day out, then I'm very happy with that.
Yeah.
If nothing else, if the two of us are swinging out of a bottle of brandy, I'll be very happy. So yeah, let's.
Me and Martin Monaco is the worst decision any Ballon d'Or presentation could ever imagine. You
think that ASM has problems and is a problem to manage? You wait till you see the two of us in Monaco. That's a whole other story.
Literally, it'll just be me and you on the show that night.
Well, to be fair, that could happen a lot sooner because if Newcastle come on tour for Ireland for pre-season,
it is a loaded live from somewhere in Ireland. Yeah,
100%.
Deadly. I would love that. Lads, how about we go to some questions if there's any questions left? Because we are coming
There's
close
a few,
to the 2 hour mark.
We're nearly at 10. Pre-season, we kind of talked about a couple of people asking about Tammy Abraham, but I think he's fairly stuck at Roma. I don't see too much in that, but
I don't think he
Sean,
fits in
you know
any
any-
outside.
Yeah,
I don't think he fits into a system. His link-up play is terrible. He's very much a finisher. Or that is he a great one?
Who's that?
Yeah.
Tammy Abraham.
Tammy Abraham.
I like Tammy Abraham.
I like him too, but I don't think he fits the team. The other names that are getting thrown around in the chat were Rashford and Dybala, because his time at Juventus is up.
Yeah, he's good Inter though, isn't he?
He's very well suited to Italian football.
I think very much to give some final points on the transfer window and stuff like that. Again, the word fluid, will always be mentioned. I think if during the transfer window the right deal is available for Henderson, the right deal is available for Ndika, the right deal is available for Phillips, Nunes, Paqueta, we will sign them all.
Okay.
Do you get me? What's the point in waiting? But they won't do it at the wrong prices, what we've seen. And I know the question that you asked the last time was, how come Aston Villa can do deals in secrecy and nobody finds out? Newcastle have earned the secrecy. And while I'm on the show, while I was actually on it there, I actually had a text message a while ago, and there was somebody saying that with Paqueta, they expected to drop very much like Bruno did. That you wake up one morning and next there's a bid that's being accepted by Leon, and that's it. They feel like that's the stage that the deal is at. So I think they will very much react to the market. They will be very fluid, and they'll spend what they have to spend. I think I don't think it's fair on journalists and stuff like that to rain on the fans' parade and say this is all you're getting 60 million plus this and plus that, because they can turn around and the stress that brings onto some fans thinking, Jesus, do we only have this much to spend? And they're asking questions and then getting flooded with questions and stuff like that. When
we've had a heap of that in the chat tonight.
Yeah,
what's the budget? Does Sean know how much we're going to spend? Actually, he does. It's close to $1 billion. So
and then they can look back at it in the back of at the end of the transfer and say, look, actually, we knew that they were going to spend 150 million, but we just played the game from. So look,
I think the best answer to that is that, and I think you've said it before, and I think we actually put this on the DMs. I think it was last week, maybe. They'll spend what they need to spend, and the thing that you kept saying to me was, it will be a fluid transfer window. If there's a deal to be done and they think it's right for the club, they'll do it. But they won't be made fools of. And I think I think we saw that in January, in the fact that we didn't go mental and just go, right, well, there's 80 million for Botman. Or so I think you're right in how those deals will be done, Sean.
Another player as well, that's actually mentioned to me quite a lot, is Marcus Thuram. He's another one that's he's out of contract next year. But there's deals there, and the thing that keeps on being mentioned to me is that they're keeping in mind the January bunks, in the sense of, look what Diaz done for Liverpool, look what Bruno Guimaraes has done for us, so they might hold maybe a deal or something like that if nobody moves from, that maybe in January, the likes of a Carlos Soler that's coming out of contract, or a Thuram or somebody, because they looked at Soler back in January, but he didn't really want to move in January and stuff like that, so they're definitely going to keep one, maybe two for January, that if the team is hitting a bit of a lull, that they can bring in a player that gives them a bit of a kickstart, so they're definitely keeping that mindful, because the January bunks is real. Look what's done for Liverpool and Newcastle,
Marcus Thuram's a hell of a player. I've had this discussion with Pete before. He's a really, really good player.
They think that the deal will be done for about 15 million, but supposedly he has something agreed with an Italian club, so I don't know, but I think Newcastle are definitely interested if he's interested at that price.
That wouldn't surprise me moving to Italy. There are certain players that are just suited and prefer to move to Italy because of the style of football and the type of game that it plays. I like Marcus Thuram. I think he's a talented player. But I think the fact, if you've got an option to move to the Premier League, you had Ibrahim Sangara that's talking about the Premier League is the elite league. That's where I want to play. That's where I want to play. If you've got a Marcus Thuram going, I've got offers in the Premier League, but I'm going to go to Italy, it kind of tells you a little bit about the player.
Temperament.
It kind of makes you think, know, is
Where
he
he
really
wants to put the challenge.
the right
Yeah.
character?
Is he up for it? Yeah.
To go, yeah, is he really up for that? Like, if you get the opportunity to play in the Premier League, to show your stuff in the best league in the world by a mile right now, because La Liga has dropped off massively, like, you would snap your hand off for that opportunity. But yeah, that rings alarm bells for me.
Yeah,
but if you're not the character and the personality in the drive to want to be your best, then maybe. Yeah.
Two kind of, I suppose, well, on the Tour and stuff. Two players do that kind of got mentioned to me a lot. Not necessarily for now, maybe in a year, 2 years time. You know, if I'm still doing it like I said then, it's Kefren Toram and is a Fofana from Monaco. They're two players that they're very, very keen on, that they're keeping an eye on. They won't move from this year, but it's very much they're players that their development will watch. Like, you know, so it could be this time next year when we're still chatting shit about football, that they kind of come into the question.
We will be probably.
Okay,
we've got a just for anybody watching the Europa League, that's gone to extra time. Finished up 1-1, so there's another half hour of foosball to be played. And we are at the 10 o'clock mark and 2 hours in, so we'll finish up with this question for all of the panel. So we'll start with Sean and work our way around. This is from Life Goals. Who do you think will be the final Premier League side to get relegated? And who would you like to see get relegated?
Let me help you there as well with this.
Okay, Sean. Who's going down and who do you want to go down?
Do you know what? I have actually no interest in it, because then it doesn't interest us anymore, really, does it? I suppose.
Okay, but just for the crack, play the game.
I could piss off a few people and say I'd like to see everything go down so we get Richarlison, but I don't think people would be too happy with me. I'm a fan, you know. Do you know what? Actually, that's something I actually didn't speak about, and I'll kind of wrap up my transfer nonsense on that. Is that 100% the club was represented us, and they did talk about a deal from, but very much if they get relegated. Anyway, sidetrack from that. I think Leeds will go down.
Okay.
You know, I think they're only 1 point ahead of Burnley, and Burnley have 2 games to play. And Everton has 2 games to play. I think they're the ones to go down.
I'll go next. I think it's Burnley. They're going to go down. I don't think they're going to get any other points. They got beaten by Aston Villa there the other day, about 2 weeks ago. They were at home at that stage. They're away at Villa now. They're not going to get the points there. We're going to beat them as well. Look at how we're playing. I think it's Burnley going down. I'd like to see Everton go down, but I don't want to see Leeds go down. But just to get their players like Phillips and Rafinha, yeah, I'd like them to see them go down, but Burnley for me to go down. Makes any sense?
Richie?
Yeah, I'm the same as you, lad. I'd love Everton to go down, but I think if you look realistically, you probably fear more if you're a Leeds fan. If I'm honest, Brentford have been good at the community stadium. You know, we've talked about a couple of Leeds players tonight here who are on our radar should they go get relegated and stuff like that. But you know, there's a few results there that could go our way. You know, yeah, if Palace get a draw with Everton tomorrow, Burnley beat Villa, and you know, you can't see Everton beating Arsenal. Leeds could turn up and put everything in, and obviously we beat Burnley, and then Everton go down if Leeds beat Burnley. You know what I mean? On that, because they're the goal difference and stuff. So there's plenty of outcomes, and you know, and some of those outcomes could see us finish in the top 10.
Yeah,
I don't want us to finish in the top 10 because I think it's a false finish. You know, because I don't know. You finish top 10 this year and then the bar's raised higher and higher again. You know, it's kind of, not that I don't want us to finish top 10, but realistically, we're not a top 10 team at the moment. You know, so it's kind of, whether we finish there or not doesn't bother me in that sense.
Fair enough. Pete, who's going down? Who do you want to go down?
I don't think there's any question about who I want to go down. Or those scarce Mackhams to get relegated. It's as simple as that. Do I think? What's that?
Just said hello to Chris.
Yeah, we want Chris's team to go down.
Yeah. So are we saying Chris is a blue now then? Or...
Well, I think
I didn't say that.
I've heard he has diversified from selling Avon to selling fireworks to certain crowds around the Liverpool area. I hope they've got plenty for for the hotel tomorrow night.
Oh,
See you, mate.
Or tonight even.
Anyway, go back to that point. I think I'd love to Everton to go down. I think they'll draw against Palace. I think they'll lose against Arsenal. I actually think that Burnley will win. I think Burnley will win against Villa, and they'll lose against us. And I think it all hinges on Leeds. I really do. If Leeds can get a win, I think they'll stay in the league. So I think it's for me. I think it's between Leeds and Everton. That's just my opinion. I think, if Palace can get a win, and they can get a win at Goodison, with the players that Everton have got out, I think that kind of changes things and makes Everton's life difficult. Everton don't win against Arsenal, in my opinion, at the Emirates. I think if Everton get beat against Palace, I think Leeds have got an opportunity to get something.
Yeah, and I think Arsenal need to step their game up after the game against us. I think there's a high expectation for them at home on Sunday.
They are not going to want to finish that game at the Emirates with anything other than a win after the fact that we made them look like shit.
Okay. So to close out for me, I think I would love to see Everton go down, purely for the fact, as much as Sean loves Richarlison, him and Gordon can't stay on their feet, and I don't like cheats.
I like Gordon.
So that's for one. Yeah, I like him, but stay on your feet, kid. But I think for me, I think Leeds are in trouble. I really do. I think I don't think Jesse March is the man to do anything with Leeds. I just don't like the guy. I don't think he's great man management. I think there's a lot of Leeds stars have not really performed, probably barring Rafinha and Phillips. I think a lot of other players needed to step up, and they haven't played. So I think they're in big trouble. I think Leeds will go down. And that's it.
Cool.
2 hours, 6 minutes. That's us.
Cool. Let's just remove that comment, Martin, and I'll just give a shout out to the sponsors. So blackandwhitearmy.com and 1881, both brands off the one website, 1881, and you can buy a range of merchandise on that. Hoodies, shorts, t-shirts, crop tops, whatever you're having yourself. And if you click on the donate part, you will find the loaded hat. The loaded hat, where the profits for this hat go towards the food bank. So check that out. There's my one. Also shout out to Simon from shybarnes.com, who's always on our shows. Yeah, in the chat tonight.
And gives a little donation. Fair play to him, Simon. Thank you very much.
Well. Cheers, Simon. So check out Simon's brand, the website, and of course, some profits towards some of the items there go towards mental health as well. So just check out that. These are old pictures. There's a lot more new stuff on there. Shout out to
fantastic brand, isn't it? The Shy Barnes. I actually checked in a bit on it there, and I seen the show the other night. There's some great stuff on the website, to be fair.
Yeah,
cool.
So he's got some great t-shirts and stuff.
Lovely t-shirts for the summer, right? Actually, nice and bright. Pins and prints as well. And yeah, you have to go check out the latest there. These are old pictures as well, but he's got Dean is constantly changing the range there, and I'm sure there'll be plenty more changes during the summer as well. So keep an eye on that. So that is our 3 sponsors. Just a reminder as well, if you haven't subscribed already, hit that subscribe button, bottom right-hand corner of your screen. You know where Pete is if you're watching this back. And you can also become a member. It'll cost you $1.99 a month. And you get to put it into the prize draw. So we probably need to run another prize draw at some stage, but we'll run that over.
Give some stuff away, yeah.
Exactly. So that is it for tonight. Sean, thanks a million for coming on. Lads,
a pleasure.
We pushed this out a bit because we know you had the holidays and stuff, so great that you're back. I'm sure we'll get you back. You're always welcome
in the
back.
Transfer window, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we'll get you back during the transfer window. Whenever you're free or there's something you want to share, you know how to reach us.
Absolutely, yeah.
But thanks everyone for watching as well.
Yeah, over 400 plus watching tonight. Loads of comments, few donations. So yeah, massive. Hit that like, and if you haven't subscribed, do that. We broke the 3,000 there a week or so ago, and more the merrier. We'll keep bringing you the content. Pete brings you his away days. We're going to get Loaded Mag back up and running. We got all the transfer shows coming up over the summer. Couple of new bits and pieces. I think we had our kind of little meeting there on Sunday with a few ideas for finally. Yeah, it only took us a year. But yeah, we're going to try and bring you a few more bits around kind of little transfer glints and little bits of ideas that we've got. So hopefully you'll see a few more bits from us over the next while. But yeah, I think the transfer shows, Pete, I think we're really looking forward to them as we get in. It's going to be a good summer. You know, whether we act fast, it'd be interesting to see who comes in the door. But we'll bring it all to you live and unloaded.
Yeah, I should mention as well, actually I never did, the shows that are coming up this week. So we have I think it's Saturday now, isn't it, Pete? The Friday, Saturday, whatever you're having yourself, as long as it's before Sunday. The way it is.
Yeah. It could well be on Sunday. We have no idea. But yeah, it's looking like it could be a Saturday evening double whammy. They've asked if I can join them on their pod as well. So it could well be a double whammy. So Saturday could be a busy day for myself. Keep yourselves available. Saturday, the last away days of the season, the big preview to a massive game, certainly for Burnley's point of view. But yeah, we'll keep you abreast of the situation. I just want to add, there's been at least 30 new subscribers to the channel.
Thanks everyone. Thanks, Sean.
So,
thanks everyone.
Yeah, massive thanks to obviously everyone that subscribed. Sean, obviously being on the show. If you're not one of them that's clicked that subscribe button, it's just one little click of a button. It gives you all the updates of all the upcoming shows that are coming up, and it helps us massively as a channel grow, and which what we've done in the last year. So yeah, fantastic. Yeah.
A few people asking as well, when are we doing the next show with Paul and Toon review? Yes, we will be. We were due to do something this week, but a few of us had bits on. Paul had something on. So we are going to do something, and
I have that information.
Okay, there you go. Sorry, Dan's jumping in. I was just going to say about the transfer window. We've some ideas around that as well, working with Paul. But yeah,
exactly, Martin. Yeah, so leading to that, so that was Saturday that Pete just described the way it is. Then on Sunday we're back for the review show, or for the final game in the Premier League for us, and a look back at just where we finished in the table, and the relegation battle and title will have been decided by then as well, if it's not already. And then on Wednesday next week, so this day next week, we're joined by Kieran Maguire and Neil Mitchell, which should be very interesting. We said we put the two of them together. What could happen? So let's find out.
Richie's foster dads.
The full accounts are going to be released by then, aren't they?
Yeah,
exactly. They'll talk about fucking timing.
Yeah,
to me, you couldn't have timed it better. That's going to be an excellent show.
Always have reasons for where we place people where we do.
That's pure luck. No, we just stop.
We plan months in advance these things. Yeah. Also, as Martin alluded to, we are back with Paul, and it's going to be Thursday. So tomorrow week with Paul, we will set up a new poster, but it'll look similar to this a bit. But a new it'll be unloaded this time. And then, after that, we have a few more ideas as well for shows coming up pretty soon, but we haven't finalized them yet. So that is it. I guess so. We'll end it there. We'll say before we go, I look forward to seeing the newspapers tomorrow, seeing any of these stories picked up that Sean has mentioned by any of the journalists.
And that is the weird thing, because we've actually shared quite a few tweets and DMs between 4 or 5 of us that we've spoken about, chatted about Unloaded, and we have seen them from some journalists the following day. And sometimes, Pete, I think the same evening on Twitter, have we not?
It's true. Very true. Yeah.
So there you go. So it's interesting who watches Loaded and doesn't actually join the chat. But anyway, if you have enjoyed it,
I think journalists actually stay away from information when I put it out. Because you might remember when I talked about Cody and stuff like that at the end of January, and I got fucking dogs abuse for it. And I also mentioned Max Killman. I think it was 2 weeks ago. it came out on a paper that we made approaches for Kilman and Cody. I kind of laughed a bit at it because they sat in the information for a while because they were like, fucking this bollocks again. Like I said.
Exactly. And I was going to ask you
to sign off.
Like I said. So we'll play out with our manager of the year. How?
See you later. Thanks for watching, guys.
See you later.
Girls,
Good luck.
everybody. Thanks, Sean. I'll talk to you all soon.
Cheers, lads.
Oh.